Good morning, everybody. So here we are. It is Saturday, May 20th. Right off the bat, to try and be a good little marketer, DvsM 1979 is available. Look at it. It says it right here. Available now. You can order it now. Don't sleep on this, because the store is going to shut down in probably week and a half as I start to prepare for Phoenix Fan Fusion. Right now you can get the newest book, DvsM 1979, third part of part 1 of DvsM, the scientist story. Okay, you can also get DvsM 1997, the eyewitness story, and you can even get DvsM 1975, the Man in Black story. All three. Part 1, DvsM. They can be read in any order. They're standalone tales. But, I mean, if I had a preference, I think you should read them in release order. I think release order is you'll get the most out of them. But I'm very careful to try and write them in a way where you can start with any one that sounds interesting to you, and then you can move on to whichever one sounds next most interesting to you. It shouldn't matter. I just think they're structured in a way where you'll get the most out of it if you read them in this order right here, the order they've been released. If there's a question about, well, what was the release order, especially if you've got a few of these books, just check the copyright page, see what year it came out, and then you'll be able to figure it out. They are not, you could, by the way, and we'll talk about this more another time probably, you could read it in chronological order. Yeah, there, I'm checking to make sure I've mirrored this right. Absolutely works. Absolutely makes maybe more sense for what I was talking about last time, the DvsM saga story, like to get a better sense of how things evolved. But this is something, like I said, I might talk about more another time. If you read it in, why am I not releasing it in chronological order? Well, I think the themes, the individual stories make more sense in the release order. And because DvsM is a character-focused series, I organize the releases based on what's the next logical character-type story to tell of the 6 I have planned out. If that makes sense. Will make more sense as it goes on. Will make more sense as I talk about it more. Okay. I have to do a lot more bagging and boarding this weekend. I think, actually, no, not all. I got to do a lot of bagging and boarding before Fan Fusion. So you can't see my office, but it's piles of either comics that need to be unwrapped from shipping and piles of bagged and boarded comics. And I've got some boxes down. It's a wreck. I need to get this all squared away in the next week or two. Okay. Now, before we get in, let's see here. I'll check the chat real quick. Yes, I hope so too. I'm noticing that, which is, I think, the topic today. People are starting to get them. So I would think very soon for you. I haven't looked at your tracking number recently, but hopefully soon. Squatch is actually, let's check Squatch's tracking number right now. Squatch's in particular. Let's see. Because his went a little later due to his own special requests. Let's see here. Let's see here. Wait, it says delivered. It says delivered yesterday. Squatch, can you confirm? Oh, yeah, look at that. All right, good. All right. Gotta keep an eye on this guy, Dee. We are. Some people are still waiting. Some people are still waiting, but mostly East Coast people. West Coast seems to have gotten their books, but when I want to talk about that today. But first, we got to do the library. Let's see here. What order? First, one of the rare fiction books in this series of sharing books from the library, House of Leaves by Mark Z. Danielewski, I think is how you pronounce it. I don't know. One of my favorite fiction books for reasons that aren't entirely having to do with the actual story. The story is good. I don't want to spoil any of it. Yeah, I encourage people, like, it's a book worth checking out. I think if I want, well, what's the spine here? Do we have like maybe a quick summary? The story focuses on a young family that moves into a small home on Ash Tree Lane where they discover something terribly wrong. Their house is bigger on the inside than the outside. Okay, so it's this weird kind of dimensional, strange phenomenon going on in their house. And they bring like people in to try and research it, and they realize that there's all these kinds of, I don't want to spoil too much because it's kind of fun to read, but it's a strange, that's the best way to think of it. It's like there's this weird dimensional, trans-dimensional aspect to their house. And the book partly is sort of documenting the research of this house, and partly is very experiential, like what it's like to be in the house. The story it's fine, it's great. What I really admired about this book was the telling of the story. As I've often said, I think execution is everything. Any story can be good or bad depending on how it's executed. And most of all, the play with the medium being a book. Let's see if I, rather than try and explain it. The author is content to kind of take a step back from, like, what is a book anyway? How do we tell stories with a book? Take a step back, look at the conventions, and figure out how to play with those and push them and stretch them. So, for example, there are all these like footnotes within footnotes within footnotes that are sort of, it becomes very absurd, where you, like, if you really want to chase down every single footnote and then another footnote that it refers to and another section it refers to, like, you get lost in the maze of this, which is, I think, supportive of the narrative, the metaphor, like this strange house that has all these strange little tunnels and hallways and doors and levels that you discover, and whether there's much wisdom to be gained in like exploring every corner of it. But then also just how do words go on a page? And let me find a really good example. There are parts of the book where, for example, they are a character finds a ladder that leads to a lower place, and he's descending this ladder. And it's like, why don't we make the text look vaguely like a ladder, and kind of you're reading it from, like, he's descending the ladder, you're kind of reading down this ladder of text, like, and we're turning the book this way so it's long. Like this playfulness with the format, playfulness with the medium. There's parts where a character is crawling down a hallway that seems to be getting smaller and smaller and smaller, and so the text is tight, describing this journey down this hallway that's getting smaller and smaller. So the area of the text is getting smaller and smaller. I really just, and there's 100 examples, different examples of things that this author does, just playing with the medium. And I really loved it, and I really admired it. And I think any kind of creative, there's probably some inspiration to be had in like seeing someone who's, I mean, it's such a cliche, but thinking outside the box of like, this is what, for example, in our case, a comic normally looks like. This is what a book normally looks like. This is what a piece of music, like a movie is 100, like 90, it's 90 minutes long. You know, a comic book is shaped like this, and it has panels, and dialogue is bubbled with a little stem, like, you know, all these kind of things that we just take for granted. I think this author sort of gives, first of all, he doesn't feel bound by whatever the conventions are, and he sort of invites any other creative who's reading this to think about, like, what are ways you could be having more fun, or be more playful, or push farther, or do strange things. What are some things you're just taking for granted, like this is how it's done, and you shouldn't necessarily? Now, as I've said before on this stream, I don't have an ambition to redefine what comics are in terms of format. You know, like I'm not trying to be ambitious like he is with like, let's really go crazy and do something really outside of the box. But I did think about this a little bit. I do think 79 especially is the most playful I've been with the format. And I'm not ready to spoil things yet because people are still getting books, but maybe in like a month or two, there are little decisions I made where it's like, let's play a little bit with this idea of like how a comic works. I was more playful. I think I'm just repeating myself. I was more playful with 79 than I've been in the past ones. There have been elements of playfulness in the past ones, like 75 has the hallucination sequence, and like you remember, like if you've read 75, as the character sort of deteriorates, the panel borders get messier and messier, and at the peak of it, like the page numbers are upside down, like it, you know, like playing in little ways like that, conservative ways though. 97, I feel like was more, any kind of chances I took were strictly with the narrative and this, you know, like the storytelling. 79, I feel like is both. I feel like 79, I think, we'll see if everyone ends up agreeing or not. I think 79 takes risks with the storytelling, but also, in addition, is playful with how it's told in the format of a comic. And I have to credit, I think, more than any other particular work I've ever looked at, House of Leaves, with making me think about that. Like, how can I sort of dismiss dogma with my making? Okay, House of Leaves, very worthwhile. Check on the chat before I go into book 2. Let's see here. Gary made sure Fu showed me a bunch of spoilers before I got to read it. Such a great guy. Okay, for those who have not watched Fu's channel, so this is, I am being 100,000% honest. Like, put me, like, swear me in, threaten me with perjury. This is exactly what happened. Fu got his book before Squatch, because Squatch had special requests with this book, okay? Fu reached out when they were going to do a show and said, hey, I'm going to be opening DvsM 1979 tonight. Do you want to come on? And I said, I'm at work. I'm going to be driving home. I'm not going to be able to make it. But be sure to rub it in with Squatch. Be sure to gloat that you have it before him. End of my instructions. That was it. That was it. Now, that instruction could have been satisfied with him just going, well, this isn't 79, but pretend it is. Squatch, look what I got. Ooh, oh boy, I can't wait. Like, that would have been it. That's what I was imagining. Okay. Instead, Fu, who clearly has a lot of hostility and anger towards Squatch, and who can blame him, started like opening it up and talking about it and showing 2-page spreads, like not a 2-page spread, but like opening the book and showing it to the camera. Nothing, no heavy spoilers. Like he was clearly, he knew there was a line where Squatch will murder him if he shows some stuff, but he was really poking the bear in a big way. And I admit, Squatch, I found it very amusing. But I also want to say, I also was shocked. I was really shocked by how hard in the paint Fu went. Like, again, a lot of anger there, a lot of hostility. I think years and years of calling him a furry, sometimes there's a little bit of pushback in surprising ways. I was surprised. That's the best word. I was surprised by the venom in what Fu did. So anyway, okay, that's the official version of events and the honest version of events. Take it up with Fu, Squatch. I don't know. I didn't expect that. Oh yeah. So yeah, no, you do. There are sometimes like the font can get like so small and different colors and different fonts, and it's a really fun book. Again, if you really, I think the story, if you just wrote it conventionally, it's a good little kind of quasi-horror book. But when you take all the stylistic choices the author made, that's where it really stands out as something special. I really do recommend House of Leaves. It's great. I gotta check that out. Why would I lie about it? Why would I lie about it? I'm 100% telling the truth. You have effed with him. Like the balance of effing, who's effing with who? It is so heavily you screwing with him the whole time I've known you guys. Let's be real. Let's be real. I'm not saying it's okay what he did. I'm just saying I understand. That's all. That's all. Okay. Squatch our people too. That's true. Okay. Let's get through these books real quick, and then I can bring guests in and talk about topics. This is an artist I discovered a year or two ago, but I instantly fell in love with. Jeffrey Allen Love. This book, I've got a few of his books over there. This one is The Thousand Demon Tree. Sorry again. 720p lets this down a little bit, but this is a signed copy. I'll show like. It's very stark and gritty and bold. Obviously, it's mostly black and white, not entirely. This is a story, like there's a whole, it's very, I don't know if there's any dialogue whatsoever. It's purely visual. Once in a while, there's color used to great effect. I love the look of this, and I've often thought, and I think this is why I immediately clicked with him. I've often thought, if and when I do something other than DvsM, as sort of a counterbalance to DvsM's very exacting look, I would prefer to do something very stylistic and abstract and you know, bold and loose, you know. And I wouldn't try to emulate this because I, you know, I don't believe, like, I'm not one to try to copy people, but this would be a big inspiration, I think. This kind of like just a different, I'm trying to avoid saying new direction, but a different direction from what I normally do. I think this would feel kind of liberating to do something like this. But anyway, Jeffrey Allen Love, really, really cool artist. You just Google and do some image searching and really neat stuff. And then finally, for something more closer to influences, my influences, and what DvsM is sort of a spiritual, I think, sort of a spiritual successor for in some ways. Wally Wood, Strange Worlds of Science Fiction. I've talked over the years about how Wally Wood is one of my all-time favorites. I think my Mount Rushmore is kind of Wally Wood, Al Williamson, Mike Mignola, Charlie Burns. I don't know. Like, there's more than there is on Mount Rushmore, but you could. Anyway, Wally Wood is one of the, like, kind of, love this guy. This is just a collection of his different kind of rag, pulpy sci-fi comics. To be clear, this is not his best work. And it's not even the most Wally Wood of the Wally Wood books. Like to me, Wally Wood is, first of all, I think this is early in his career, most of this, and I think his art doesn't look great. It's interesting to me as a fan of his to see kind of his early rough stuff. But it's not as distinctly his as some of his later things. It's not as pulpy and raw as some of his later things. My impression is as he went on, you see the kernels of Wally Wood in this early stuff, but as it went on, I think his art got more dialed in. And I think he really started to enjoy doing what I would categorize as just comic pulp. Violent, sexy, salacious, like lots of guys getting into fistfights and shooting each other, lots of naked women, lots of, like, he really went in that direction. And that's a very fun direction to go in. This is more like proto Wally Wood, where he's still kind of, I think, finding himself. It's like looking at Mignola before Hellboy or something, where you're seeing glimpses, but it's not the fully blossomed figure, you know. Anyway, still really fun, especially for me. And I just love, there's nothing I love. I will read the worst old comic. When I say old, like, you know, like pre-1980, just for an arbitrary date. I would rather read the worst comic from some period before that than this is going to be a hot take, but it's just taste. I'm not saying anything bad about this, than the best comic from the 90s. Like, there's just something about those old comics that just scratch an itch with me. That sort of late 20th century comic did not. Generally speaking, there's still some comics from that era that I really, really loved, but anyway. Okay. Squatch, have a good day at work. And I hope you enjoy DvsM 1979 when you read it. And rest assured, I was also on the edge of my seat saying, like, to Fu, like, please don't show anything too spoilery. And I could tell, as much as he was screwing with you, he was careful not to really show anything like that. I would be like, please don't show that. Just for the benefit of people who haven't, like, he was very, I think he was, as much as he was enjoying screwing with you, I feel like he was picking out kind of neutral pages that, yes, you would have preferred to see nothing, but he wasn't spoiling big stuff. So I hope you enjoy it when you read it. Not my fault. Not my fault. Jim Lujan. Gary, I'll say it again. Congrats, my friend. Proud and happy for you. Feels good. Thank you. Okay. I just had a quick topic, like 2 sentences to say, and then I'm going to I got someone in the green room, and other people might show up too. I don't know. But so comic is out. Past few days, I've been getting messages and stuff. People, reading it, commenting on it. People sharing their packages on Instagram and tagging me, stuff like that. It's feeling more real. Louie doesn't like that the door is mostly closed. Louie, look at that kitty. Look at that kitty, everybody. Look at that kitty unhappy about being ignored. Okay. What this is, so on one hand, it's great. All the reactions so far, knock on wood, has been very positive, and it's a relief, and it's always nice to hear. Always great. And it makes me feel like, I was just talking to Jim Lujan yesterday or the day before, saying that I felt like, I thought maybe when I sent it off to print, or when I got it, or when I mailed stuff out to people, I would feel like, okay, finally done. And I realized, like, no, there's that last bit of it where, like, you're getting some feedback. That's when it finally feels done. So before the past couple days, I was still feeling like I was in limbo. Yeah, I think the analogy I used with Jim was, it's like you've interviewed for a job and now you're just waiting for the call to see, like, did I get it? Did I not get it? And it's not even like, oh, I hope I get it. It's just like, I would love to know anything. Like, I would just love, like, to know, like, so now what? And I think that's what this past week has sort of been like for me, is like, just waiting to see, like, to feel like, okay, now I'm kind of in that. And what's interesting is, I was just telling Scott Lost this today. Jim, can we be serious just for 5 minutes? Is that possible? Will you allow it? Okay. I'm realizing that when it comes to, for example, drawing comic pages, I've drawn like 160 pages of DvsM at this point. I feel very experienced and seasoned and fairly comfortable drawing a comic page. I feel like it's kind of old hat, okay? When it comes to releasing a comic, putting a comic out there for people to read and people reading it, that I have only done 3 times now. And that still feels very new and weird and stirs up a lot of complicated feelings and emotions. It's still just a very strange experience for me. And that's mostly what I've been feeling the past few days, is the weirdness and the newness, which might seem strange. I've been doing this for years. Like I said, I've drawn closing in on 200 pages of DvsM. This has been my life for a while. But when you think about how often have you actually printed a book and given it to people, 3 lousy times over the course of what's now been like 5 years, 5 or 6 years. Like, that's not a lot. It still feels like very new, strange, unfamiliar territory. That's where I'm at. Okay, that's the only thing I want to say today. But books are available. Everything is stocked. I'm happy it's done, and I'm happy it's getting out there. And regardless of, you know, whatever the feedback has been, which has been good, I think this is the best work I've ever done. I feel like I know that, and like whether people will respond to it is out of my hands, and I can't even go there. I just know that I'm more proud of this than any other book I've put out so far. I think it's the best drawing I've done, the best storytelling I've done, the best writing I've done, the most, like what I was referring to with like House of Leaves, the most playful with the form. I feel good about it. Now I'm just sitting there hoping like other people appreciate it, and other people want to pick it up, and other people want to read it, and other people see what I was doing with it. And I can't put too much on that because I have no control over that part, but I at least feel good about it's done, it's out, and people can get it, and I feel good about it. Okay. I've got a very special guest in the green room. Some other people might show up too. I don't know. It was a late notice, but I sent out the link to a few people. Ladies and gentlemen, the inimitable Scott Sirkland.
Hey, Gary.
How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm glad you were streaming because I didn't think you were, because like you said,
yeah, I know. I
normally.
Yeah,
I'm normally like the one day where I've got a ton of stuff. I got a project I've got to complete, and I'm going to be sitting here at the computer working on it. And
yeah, so I was intrigued by that.
What
are you working on?
I'm working on something super exciting. It's kind of it's a comic, but it's kind of a corporate comic, which I mean, they didn't tell me I couldn't share it, so I guess I could kind of share it. Let's see. I gotta figure out how to work this thing. I think it's this one here, Cintiq. Yeah. So, yeah. So let me see.
I love the line work.
Yeah. So it's not super exciting like Marvel DC stuff, but you know what? Marvel and DC doesn't want to pay what I'm worth, so
there you go.
I get to do this stuff, and not that I'm, not that I'm against doing just art for art's sake, but if I'm going to do that, I'm going to do that on my own projects,
You bet. Yeah.
So
anyway. What is Fido?
Fido, it's an acronym. I'm trying to remember. The company, I won't mention the company I'm doing it for, but because they didn't, I don't think it's a problem, but
sure. Yeah.
All of this has to do with cybersecurity. The company's big into passwordless protection. So all the issues you have with here, let me see, go to another page that I'm working on. So this one, we kind of start off with this guy here, who's trying to figure out, go through all his different passwords and stuff. Because what a problem that is. I mean, we've got 300 different accounts and all these different passwords, and it's a pain in the ass. So
it's a nightmare. Yeah.
Yeah. So this company deals with more like authentication via biometrics and things like that, and hopefully that'll be something better than passwords will be what we move into in the future. So this is we're kind of focusing on featuring different people in that space as a hero. So we kind of go into this kid, and it's kind of his origin story on how he becomes somebody significant in that cybersecurity space.
I just love the look of that retro computer.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So this goes back. He didn't want to say how old he was, but it goes back. He grew up in Dubai, so I had to find old pictures of Dubai before it is what it is now.
That's what I was going to ask. I was like, so what area? This looks like it must be a real place. What is this place?
Yeah. This is Dubai back, I want to say circa 1980 something. So anyway, so we kind of follow him and his journey, and we're going to do a whole series of these featuring different people. And this is kind of the pilot. So if it goes well, then we'll be doing more of these. So hopefully,
I have to say, it looks. I'm not surprised because I know you're a talented guy, but it looks really good. Like I'm really
it's
loving
it's a little tighter than what I do for like Young and the Dead. I like with my own stuff. I like to be a little looser, but one thing is I'm hoping if this when this goes, then I won't be the only one doing the artwork for this because we want to get them out faster. So I'm trying to kind of duplicate this, at least come close to the style that from an illustrator we hired, who did some of the other ones. So we can so it's a little less stylized, so we can pass it over to different people and stuff like that. But plus it's, we're dealing with actual people, so we want to keep it, want to have some likenesses and stuff there. So it's a little tighter than what I would normally do for like Young and the Dead or something. But
well, and it's also fun and this is as a fan of Young and the Dead, it's fun to see, like that's what I'm used to seeing from you. So it's fun to see like, oh, that's totally different. Like that's kind of cool.
Yeah, I think and plus this one is all digital inks. Like the one I did for, well, it's still a little more cartoony, I think, but the one I did for the werewolves and unicorns, that was a little tighter too, I think. So
it's similar. I can see how that's closer to
But yeah, so that's what I'm working on. I have to finish inking it, color it, letter it. And it's only like 2 pages. Each one is 2 pages plus like a little kind of cover image. So it's not huge, but
how many? I'm sorry. Did you say how many you were doing? Or
well, right now we've got this one. We've got another person that we did an interview lined up. When we already did the interview, and we'll do one for that. And then so far, they're digging what they're seeing, so I'm sure we'll go ahead. And I don't know how far it will go, how many people they'll do, but they do kind of want to feature different people and stuff. So hopefully it'll. Because I've been really focusing on the YouTube channel and stuff, and like last year had a pretty good year last year, but other than that, this year is just kind of me focusing on the YouTube, which makes no money. So yeah, this will kind of help me get to that next point, and hopefully still be able to concentrate and really do what I want to do on YouTube, which is which we'll start talking a little more about.
Well, what is, I know you're still playing it close to the chest, but what can you tell us about?
I've put it out there. I mean, it's not, most people might not know, but like anyone that was on my Patreon, I put an interview, and the interview was public. I did it on a podcast. So this is
a reminder to me that I need to be looking at my effing Patreon. Like, it's terrible. I back people and I never look at it. I just so, okay, go ahead.
No. So, I mean, basically what the direction that I'm going to go, and I won't say what kind of direction it is specifically, but it is.
Especially with Jim and Josh watching.
Yeah. So basically it's going to kind of go in the way of like a maker channel, but if you can imagine, and still, I think this is still going to appeal to all the people that dig what I was doing before, because it's still got a kind of a comic feel to it. It's definitely going to be a lot more highly edited and fast paced and structured to keep engagement and hopefully drive more views and have YouTube push it out and everything. So, but they take way longer to produce. I mean, almost like script to finish, almost maybe like 40 hours. I mean, so it's a lot, but I'm going to see what happens. But anyway, so, and hopefully that'll get faster as I get a little more used to the editing process and all that kind of stuff. But so it's going in the direction of like a maker channel. You probably, I assume I've already told you about this. This is just for everyone watching, or do you not know?
You told a little bit. I remember we talked about it a little bit when I came out for dinner, but I it wasn't like super in depth. So
I guess the best way to explain it, if you're into this kind of stuff you would order from the back of comic book. Well, you showed this book out on the.
I did. Yeah, I love that book. Yeah.
So basically, what I'm going to do is I'm going to be recreating stuff like from here and stuff from your childhood. So whether that's old like Garbage Pail Kids style stickers and wax packs and X-ray glasses and all this kind of stuff, I'm going to try to reverse engineer that and try to figure out how to build it, how to make it, and show
very
that
cool
in an entertaining way. And it may work out, it may not. I'm just going to attempt to see, what's the best way to try to make this stuff happen. Like I'm getting ready I've already got 4 videos complete. I'm getting ready to script one for X-ray glasses. I don't know if I can recreate them, but we'll find out.
I bet you can, because that's the only one I thought.
I think I can. Yeah.
Yeah. What isn't it? Isn't there a feather in each side or something?
Yeah, that says there's a feather. I bought a pair, and I looked at it, and I don't think they're using a feather anymore. But
yeah.
I think that's what I'm going to try. I'm going to try the feather, and if that doesn't work,
try to do an old school one. Yeah. I thought it was something like that. Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of what I'm going to do, and then because the videos take so long to do, it's going to be one every other week. But in the weeks in between, I'm going to do a live stream, and the live stream will probably focus on something having to do with the previous video, like on the wax pack one. I'll probably show how to wrap. I'll just be wrapping wax packs, or maybe opening wax packs or something like that. So
you've got 4 done.
I've got 4 done. Now there's still a lot of I wanted 4 done before I launched, so I at least have, because they take so long, so I have a buffer. But there's stuff that I need to do along with that. So with every video, there's a Patreon and the newsletter thing that goes along with it that will have because to monetize it, I want to drive people to the Patreon. So there'll be some of the stuff will be free. Like there'll be templates and stuff that if you just join the newsletter, you'll get. And then there may be some of them, there may have layered Photoshop files that go a little deeper that I'll put on Patreon and just extra stuff. And I want to try to build a community of people that may be interested in building this kind of stuff, or just watching somebody build it.
So I understand if you don't want to commit to a date, but it sounds like a launch would be.
I'll say next month. I've got kind of
next month.
Not to get too personal, but I was going to launch it early next month, but then I've got a colonoscopy going up next month. So I think I probably want to wait till after that.
Yes. The joys of getting older. I did my first one. I hit the 8 because now they're saying at 48, I think.
Well, I should have already had mine because I'm older than you. So, but
I did it. Well, I did it. I did my first right when I turned. It was last year.
Yeah.
And it's really not, to be honest.
It's the day leading up to it, I hear. And I honestly,
it's the prep that sucks.
I've never fasted in my life. I don't know if I can go a day without eating. So that's what scares me though.
Okay. Well, to reassure you with that, that's what I was most worried about. I was like, I'm going to feel insane and headachy and tired and awful. Honestly, first of all, there's some basic things you can still eat. So you can at least not feel like you're starving. And second, and this is sort of a double-edged sword, once you start taking all the crap,
you don't want to eat.
You're not hungry at all. Not even a little bit. Right. And so it's fine. The drag of it is once all those drugs start kicking in, this is your life now. This is it's terrible. It's but it's really not that bad. And the actual procedure itself was nothing.
That's what I mean.
Because you're out, or in twilight or whatever. It's not a big deal. But and you bounce back really fast. Yeah. You're kind of drained the next day. You're kind of just blah, but not even I don't know. It's probably mostly that you didn't sleep great, the night before. I would recommend. What time? Do you know what time you're doing yours?
I set it up for fairly early, so
I think see how that goes.
Yeah,
I did mine fairly early as well, thinking I want to get it out of the way.
Yeah.
In retrospect, if I ever have to do it again, I think it's every 8 years or something. Mm-hmm. So I probably will do it late.
Okay.
Because there's a point with the prep where you need to one more time drink a bottle of this crazy nonsense stuff 5 hours before your procedure. And if your appointment's at 9, that means you're setting your alarm to get up at 4 a.m. to drink some crazy so it's that sucked. So next time I might be I'll set it for an afternoon and get up in the morning and take a thing. So anyway.
Fortunately, and this may be different with all that stuff in my system, but fortunately, I can fall asleep like that. So I can wake up,
fall back
to sleep, and it's usually
good. Because I'm something with aging. I've become a bad sleeper.
And I may be, I may, as much as I've heard that the procedure isn't the issue, I may still have some nervousness or whatever. So
sure. I think you'll be surprised. And actually, one part of it was sort of wonderful. So you go in And when you're waiting, like they put you in a little bed in like a little waiting area.
Yeah.
And they start you on an IV to kind of relax you. And they dim the lights and they put a nice warm blanket on you and you just kind of chill, like waiting for your turn.
Yeah.
That was kind of like a spa. It was wonderful. Like I was just like, oh, I could get used to this part. So that part's actually kind of nice. And then you're not even aware of the other thing. And afterward, I remember right afterward, I had my dad drive me home because you're a little like loopy. Not bad though. And we went out to breakfast after. Like it was fine. Like I felt a little like I'd had 2 drinks. Like that's all it was no big deal. And go and get breakfast and you're back to yourself. But it's not too bad.
Cool. Yeah.
Everyone should do it. Colon cancer kills people.
Everyone.
Yeah. So let's see here. I'm totally lost track and control of the chat. Josh and Jim.
Yeah, I should have pulled that up. Maybe I'll try to pull that up on YouTube without getting an echo. Let's see.
They're talking about. Let's see here.
So I can see that.
The stripper albums.
Let me.
The J Boys in the House. The J Crew.
Right.
They're just really enjoying being Josh and Jim.
I'll jump on here. Hold on a second.
J Squared. What else we got here?
All right.
Barbarians. All this tire smoke in the chat. It's gonna be oh yeah, the relaunch. So Josh, everyone's excited about seeing you, your new videos on YouTube and what that's going to be. I know I am. DvsM is both an enigmatic journey into the fantasy realm, but also a sharp commentary on science gone astray and the God complex, the J Boys. Wow, what a quote. Let's see here. Philip. 3. Oh, yeah. See, welcome to the club. I just draws on his rich experience in research, crafting meaningful tense and suspense. Right. I don't know if I want to read any more J Boys quotes. Leaves us not only more curious about dinosaurs, but ourselves as well. Wow, that is a little heavy. Okay. So, this is your all day thing working?
Unless, I'm not too worried about the deadline. So, I'm hoping I'll have maybe some time tonight or tomorrow just to hang out or, obviously eat and do something, Speaking of which, Jen said that we got to hang out soon.
Yes, we should. We absolutely should.
So, but yeah. But yeah, so I'll be working on this most of the day, but hopefully it won't take me too long once I finish inking it. And the drawing, obviously takes the longest, and that's done. So
everything else is nothing compared to that.
Yeah.
The drawing is just,
But yeah, so that's the plan. And then, I think Josh said he might be streaming tonight. So
yes,
hop
which
on
is
there
good.
or whatever. But yeah, and at first, you said you were going to stream. I was going to jump on, and I'm like, oh, maybe I shouldn't, because we're going to have you on the Artcasters next week, and I didn't want to talk too much about DvsM, but we won't talk about that as much as I want to, and not even necessarily spoilers or anything like that. But
no, I understand. Yeah. It's whatever. We can divide it. I don't know. I think probably they're different. So who's hosting it next week?
It's me, but if anyone's familiar, I'm no longer hosting on my channel.
Right.
So it'll be, I want to say, wait, no, I think last week it was on Josh's channel. So I think it'll be on Corey's channel.
Okay.
But I'll be the one running the show. So yeah, and that's just another thing, research and stuff that I've done as far as really trying to make a go at doing YouTube and make it profitable, is that anytime you deviate from a certain format or whatever, that messes with the algorithm and stuff. So I gotta kind of do and I definitely don't want to stop doing Artcasters, but so the guys are cool about just me hosting it on their channels moving forward and everything. So
when you do relaunch, you still will not be hosting Artcasters on your channel, or you?
No.
Okay.
No, it won't be on my channel, but I'll still be hosting, so.
Got it. Yeah.
But there will be live streams. Like I said, I'll be doing live streams having to do with what I'm creating on the channel and everything. So
cool.
So I did see.
looking forward to both. Jim has a question for you.
Yeah, I was looking at that.
Yeah.
So let's see. Podcasts that I listen to. I mean, I listen to. Oh, I'll just pull up my phone. I actually, that's a good thing you brought that up because I need some more recommendations because I have so many old ones that pod faded. That I'm constantly looking for something new. So hold on, let me pull up my podcast. I know, like, Comic Lab's a big one. I usually listen to them every week.
What is it? Comic Lives?
A Comic Lab.
Comic Lab. Yeah, that's right. Thanks for reminding me because I keep forgetting to add it. I'm going to add it right now.
Let's see. So let's see. Comic Lab. Let's see. So there's another one called Master of One, and they started off doing like interviewing artists, and they've kind of changed format. And I kind of like these guys, and I like listening to them. So I still listen, even though they talk a lot about games and TV, and I don't watch a lot of TV, and I don't play any games. So a lot of it's kind of like, why am I still listening to this?
Right.
But it's still somewhat entertaining. So another one, and it's a lot. Some of these are just like, they don't post as much as they used to, like Adventures in Design. That was one of the earliest art podcasts. I think they started around that.
So they don't update.
They get illustration. He does, just not as much. For a while he stopped posting. Now he's posting again. But Adventures in Design, 3 Point Perspective. That's the one with Jake Parker and Will Terry and the other guy who doesn't like comics. And then Making Comics. I've got Making Comics on here.
Yeah.
And then there's another one, like, it doesn't post that often, but Create Something Awesome Today with Roberto Blake. He's like a YouTube guy, talks about a lot of the stuff that I'm learning about, what I need to be doing on YouTube to make it profitable. He's got a YouTube channel, but he'll do like these long, like, podcasts and stuff. So I usually listen to him, and he'll do a live stream, and sometimes he goes like 3 hours, and I'll just have it on just because he drops a lot of gold on as far as that kind of stuff.
I'm following all of these. These are all new to me. So
there's another one that he doesn't post that often. There was one called The Ultimate Self-Publishing Guide by, have you heard of Black Sands Comics?
No.
So he's super successful he was on Shark Tank and everything. He launched a whole universe, focused on like Black characters. It's all like pre-slavery. So back at like Egypt and stuff like that.
Okay.
And he tells kind of their stories, and he's built an empire based on that. So he's very knowledgeable. He's kind of a little, I'm not sure if I'm 100% down with his personality. He's kind of cocky and stuff like that. But I guess when you're a millionaire and you're doing,
you feel like you can do no wrong.
But there's some stuff that I don't agree with, but there's a lot.
What was the name of that podcast again?
It's called The Ultimate Guide to Self-Publishing. And he hasn't really posted lately. Again, that's why I need recommendations. So if you guys want to send me recommendations, but yeah, and like some of the stuff as far as hiring artists, and like, he'll like say, yeah, you don't want to give any like control or any ownership to any of your artists. So that's like, so a lot of this stuff I don't agree with at all, but you pick and choose little things. So that's not one I would 100% recommend, but but yeah, that's kind of it. I mean, there's tons of others on here that just don't exist anymore, really. So so I'm always looking for new podcasts.
Me too. Yeah, no, that was great. I like I said, I added pretty much all of those. I'm especially excited. Like, most of the stuff I'm listening to is not comic related, so it's good to add some.
Yeah, there's another one on. I watch a lot of Disney content. There's the guy who does the Adventures in Design. Recently, he started doing a lot of Disneyland content, just going to Disneyland. So, but he'll break it down from a design perspective, and he'll talk about the atmospheric perspective that how the buildings are shorter, but how they paint them to look like they're taller, and all that kind of stuff, and all the little things in Disneyland. And it just, he looks at it from very design oriented and talks about like future plans. This is what if I was, this is what I would put in here based on this space if we were going to redo Tomorrowland or whatever. Yeah. So that's called it's called right now it's called Disneyland for Designers, but I think he's changing the name of it to, get a broader audience and kind of going full circle into the stuff that I'm doing. That's
Right.
I think the new content that I'm going to be doing, I think it's going to appeal to people who might not even be artists, but I still think it's going to appeal to artists. So trying to find that, because
that sweet spot.
just gearing just to starving artists, sometimes it's difficult to make that work.
Of course. Yeah. No, and Disneyland. That is a good example of that, like the design that goes into making Disneyland. That's something that would be interesting to creatives, but also just anybody who's. Let's see. Josh has a question, I think, to both of us. Have you been taking photographs and then had to stop to charge your phone or camera? I think this is because Josh is doing photo refs today, and I'm assuming this just happened.
Yeah. I don't take a lot of photo refs. I mean, I use photo references, but a lot of times I'm looking those up or whatever. Sometimes a lot of what it is, if I ever have to draw a right hand, I usually have to take a picture of it. I'll take a picture of my hands doing stuff. So I do that with my phone, or if there's something with lighting or whatever. But like with the current one I'm doing, since I'm dealing with real people, I'm looking for photos of them in particular and stuff like that. So
you can tell when I always back up my phone to I don't think it's iPhoto, it's just Photos now, but it was iPhoto on my computer regularly. And you can tell when I'm scrolling through the years of photos on my iPhoto, what was iPhoto? You can tell when I was drawing, because you come across like dozens of hand pictures, just like me just sitting in the middle of a page and just taking a quick picture of my own hand just to be able to look at it while I'm drawing. Or like weird poses of I feel pretty confident when it comes to drawing people, but there are still some poses that I do so rarely. I'm immediately uncomfortable and I want to see a photo. And one good example would be very looking at a face like this.
Oh, I hate that.
Something like that. Or not profile, but mostly away, 3/4 away. Yeah. That's another one where it's I'm
getting better at that one. That one, I used to suck at profiles, and I don't know, the last couple of them that I've on Young and the Dead. Because I would always look up that one angle, and then but the last few I'm just going to draw it, and I'm like, that looks pretty good.
So, it looks fine. There's a lesson in that too, because I think I don't know how often I'm consulting reference just as a security blanket, or Gumbo's feather. This thing of you could draw this, if you had to, if you could do it and it would be fine. But because references are available, it's I'm just going to peek at the reference just to see. And it's you don't really need, it just gives you that added feeling of confidence, that it'll be right, but you don't really need it. I think, at least in my case, I find that happens a lot. But Josh, I can't say that's happened, but I'm usually pretty I'm very anxious about the ask I'm making of people who are posing for me, and I kind of want it to be like a military strike. I want to have my list. I want to know exactly what I'm looking for. I have my phone charged. I've cleared out all the photos on it, so I have maximum space. I'm kind of going in I want to feel totally organized, because I don't want them standing around wondering what the hell I'm doing. Because I always feel like I'm really asking a lot of them. I'm asking them to make weird faces. I'm asking them to make a fool of themselves, a little bit. Do this, do this. I kind of want to be able to move. I don't want to give them too much time to. In a vacuum wondering what's going on. So I'm maybe hypersensitive about that, which, Josh, you may find out for yourself, because I do still envision you in a role in DvsM #4. So I might be at some point in the next 6 or 8 months making a journey to California to get some pictures of a Kremble in his natural habitat.
Yeah. So I have a question, Gary. So
yes.
How does that work out for you as far as that reference? Because what I'm finding, like when I'm doing these videos, because I'm meticulous about it too, like creating a shot list. These are the angles I need to shoot from this. This is,
right.
you know, try to, you know, shoot all these certain shots, not sequentially, but so it makes sense. And then,
right.
you know, record certain voiceover and stuff like that. And then inevitably when I get to editing everything, it's like, oh, I needed this shot. Or then sometimes like I realized that my air conditioning was on wreaks havoc on the audio, and I didn't know that. So there were a couple shots when the AC came on, it was just like,
yeah,
what is that? And it was the AC, like if the camera's in a certain area. So you have to go back. But no matter how well I try to plan it out, I get to editing. I'm like, where's that shot? Or like I'll have like a voiceover, and I think that I've got enough visuals to cover that, and it's like, oh, it's just short. I need more.
It's inevitable. It's inevitable, and especially if you're like me, like I mentioned in the thank you page of 79, that I took like 700 photos of Mary for visual references to make Dr. Wagner, and even then, especially even if you're like 1 or 5% off, like with what you think you need, that's a lot of panels where you just don't have, or like a lot of things that you want to draw where you just don't have exactly the right picture you hoped for. I mean, that's where, and you can appreciate this, that's where you have to actually, you have to do your art thing. You have to just like, well, I got to make it work, because I don't, you're not going to go back and like call somebody up and say, hey, would you want to meet again for like another hour where I can take another few dozen photos? Like, it's like, you just got to figure it out. But no, every time, and no matter how organized I think I am, no matter how well planned out it is, I maybe have not only a list of photos, but little thumbnails next to them. So I know this is exactly like what I'm kind of envisioning, like do something like this. Let me see like you sitting in this position or whatever. Like there's always some gap. And the background audio, it's funny. I'm getting ready, I think, to do a new, like I have the welcome video on my YouTube channel. That just is like me introducing DvsM and myself. I can completely hear the AC in the background. It drives me bananas. And I've thought about, I have learned Premiere well enough where I know how to go in and adjust that out. But I almost want to, it's like, you know what, I'll just redo it. It's old anyway. Like I can do something better. But every time I hear, when I go to my channel to check my subscriber count or something, and that starts auto playing, the first thing I hear is,
that's what I thought, because when the air was, because this Arizona, you can't not have the air on.
I know.
So I think in the future I just got to crank it up and then set it to where it'll take a while for it to, just like
so there's you time it for the in between.
But the thing is, I just thought, okay, I might hear it in the background, but it'll be okay or whatever. Maybe I can edit it out. But then in certain positions, it's just like, I'm like, how is it so loud? It's not that loud when I'm sitting there talking. But
no, it drives me crazy. And I remember when I used to do edited videos, which I'll probably be going back to now that I'm out of the kind of weekly drawing update thing. Sometimes I would record takes, not paying attention to that. And then so I'd record a take and then play it back to see like, how did that go? And then I would hear it and I would do it again because I could hear the stupid AC. Like it just drove me crazy. So, and sometimes it seems worse than others. Like, I don't know, sometimes the mic is being more sensitive, but nope, I totally understand. Totally feel your pain. That happened a little bit. I just recorded some audio for Jim for Full Fungus. And he just wanted some lines. I won't spoil what, but he just wanted basically background chatter. And so I was just saying just random things into my little voice notes just to give him a bunch of options. And I played it back later, and I heard the psh, and I was like, you know what? Jim's a talented guy. If it's a problem, he can let me know, or he like. I mean, because I thought it was mostly good. It's a little bit, we'll see.
Here's a funny thing that I'll mention here. So one of the shots that I had to redo, it was a shot of me holding this grocery bag, and of course, anytime you have a film or anything, you got a grocery bag. What do you have to have sticking out of it?
You need a baguette. You need
I got the baguette.
Yeah,
I'm on a keto diet, so we're not eating bread. So I go out buy this baguette specifically to put in the bag. Shot the whole thing, and I'm like, okay, what am I going to do with this baguette? I'll take it to my neighbors. Go give it to my neighbor. So I did that, and then I realized the shot. So I had to go out buy another baguette and refilm that whole scene.
That's great. That's great. Well, and I admire your self-control to give away the baguette, because my attitude would be like,
well, I guess it's a cheat day
to
my son.
Yeah, I guess we're just eating this baguette. Yeah, gosh, yeah, no, I've actually part of my. I haven't talked about this much in the streams, but it's like, okay, well, now the comic is out. Now what? Mostly, I'm in fan fusion mode now, or pivoting to fan fusion mode. But after that, I have marked on the calendar a specific day. Sign up at gym. Like, I think there is an element of like, I don't know if the same thing it happens with you, but or with Josh or any of us who have been sitting and drawing, like marathon drawing for months. Like, I know I'm not in the best shape I've ever been. So like, there's an element of like, okay, time to get back on track. And some of that will be no more baguettes, but or ice cream or pancakes or all those other wonderful, wonderful things. Let's see what's going on in the chat here. Let's see here. Josh is talking about how you're going to basically do a Artcasters competitor called Casting Art with two new hosts. This might be an awkward time to announce that I am one of the official co-hosts of Casting Art. Sorry, guys. I don't know. Don't take it personally. Let's see here. Josh has another.
Was his alternate Artcasters? What was it called again?
Oh, that's right. Yeah, he called it. It was like craft tossers or something. I don't know. It was some kind of spin on Artcaster. Yeah, right. Josh has another question. After finishing such a huge piece of work, I guess this is probably for me, but this would also apply to you. You just sent out the 5th Young and the Dead.
A little while ago, but yeah.
Yeah, it was a few months ago. After finishing such a huge piece of work, now having nailed out the first batch, where are you at? It was quite an undertaking. Are you now exhausted, relieved, happy, sad, etc.? All of the above. All of the above. And I think I kind of said that on the outset. It's a really weird. This makes me realize, for anyone who didn't catch the very beginning, even though now at this point I've drawn like 160 pages of DvsM, I've like written long scripts, I feel fairly experienced when it comes to the making of comics. The releasing of comics I've only done 3 times. And it's still a very new, weird, emotionally complicated experience for me. Maybe it always will be, maybe it'll get easy. I actually feel like, and Scott, I'd be curious for your reaction, and Josh, your reaction, anyone who's put out multiple things, Jim, with your movies. In a weird way, I feel like it's getting harder and harder to like really, not to do it, to put it out there. Like there's something about that that's more emotionally fraught each time. And my off the cuff speculation is, as I put more work into it and as it becomes more close to me and personal to me, I feel maybe more vulnerable putting work out. And that's maybe, I don't know, that's getting more and more pronounced. I don't know.
Say kind of that Dunning-Kruger thing where when you first put it out, you don't know all that goes into it. And now that you have that experience, like, oh, now I remember all the stuff I got to do to launch this thing. And maybe that's what's, I don't know.
It could be a Dunning-Kruger thing. Yeah, it could be that too, where it's like I'm more and more aware of there was a lot of like the kind of what I refer to actually also in the thank you page of 79, the kind of unearned confidence of youth. I was not young when I put out 75, but I was young as a comic person. And there's this element of like, yeah, I'll do a comic. And just like kind of like, and not think, you know, feel like, how hard could it be? And just sort of do it. And now by the third one, I'm feeling, I'm more aware of all the moving parts. And I think it just, like I said, it adds more, I don't know, it's everything about the comic process is getting easier except the putting it out there. That, and it's not getting, I wouldn't say hard, it's just getting more emotionally difficult, if that makes any, or emotionally complicated, if that makes any sense. I would be interested in anybody else's take, like who, if they've released multiple things, if they have the same experience or I'm the weird one.
I don't know if I'm it's weird. Like I know with this book, this last chapter, it seems like this will probably be the least amount of time in between each issues if it keeps going at the pace it's going, because I just set aside, I'm going to try to work at least an hour every day, if not at least very least 30 minutes, just continue on that 100 days of making comics without actually doing the vlogging part, because I think I've proved myself enough that I don't need that.
You don't need that kind of level of accountability.
Yeah. But in doing that, I mean, it's coming along a lot faster. So, and it's nice. And maybe it's just because I'm at the home stretch, and I'm also doing the Scott Loss method.
Oh yeah. So how's that going?
It really helps. But lately I've been finding out I'm kind of getting back into sort of sequential, because I started off kind of like, I think he talked about how he kind of sometimes he says background, because to me, I like to get that stuff over with. So I did a lot of the backgrounds, but the pages I'm on right now, I'm looking at them because I'll still go into that mentality, like, okay, what's the thing that I don't want to do today? Don't do that. Do work on this. And I'm looking at them like, okay, all these pages, it's kind of right now, it's kind of like, I don't really mind doing any of these. So I'll just, so far I'm just kind of moving, but I did kind of move. I have in the past kind of moved from this page to that page and stuff like that. But now that I'm kind of in the home stretch, as far as penciling, if this was a standard size comic like the rest of them, I'd have it pretty much all penciled, but this one's a little longer. There's like an epilogue and stuff, and the main story is probably about 5 pages longer than the one before. So if that was the case, I think I'd have it all penciled by now. But
that's interesting.
Yeah. So
will it be the long of all of them? Do you think it'll be the longest?
Oh yeah, they're all the same. There's no like. And I got caught in that trap of like, oh, a comic is 22 pages, when it doesn't need to be really nowadays. So
not really. No. Yeah.
So I'm in there, and there's time, and I may have to do a little George Lucasing, because there's some stuff because of that I felt like I kind of rushed, like that I may have wanted to add a couple extra pages to this or something like that, just because I was trying to edit it and keep it to those 22 pages. So when I compile it, I may add a few pages here and there or whatever. But yeah, so I've always tried to keep. And then maybe some of that is still back to the comic standard, because I remember also when you're reading the limited series, when I was growing up, it was they're 22 pages, but that last one, it's a bonus size or not double size. Some of them are double size, but how the last giant double size last issue or giant size or whatever. So I didn't feel too much like, oh yeah, I can make this one a little longer, but.
That's exciting. By the way, sometimes I'm muting when you're talking, just so you don't feel like you're being played off the clarinet music in the background. Good. So what is your thought on? It sounds like then you are open to that. You're clearly open to that idea of circling back and doing like special editions of your books, but
it's weird because I mean, and George Lucas gets so much stuff, and I don't like the fact that he kind of the choices that he made. So I don't know why I would consider myself any better by going back and adding things to mine.
Yeah.
But I also don't have I feel like this has kind of been sort of almost like if I was doing a web comic where I'm doing this and then I put it out there and then people say, oh, you misspelled something, go back and correct it, or something like that. I don't have like the massive fan base like a Star Wars did, the people that love it just the way it is.
Right.
So I don't think I have as much pressure to go back and change a few things or my original kind of vision or things that I, wish I would have done differently or whatever. But I don't want to get in that trap either. So I don't. Yeah, it's kind of a double.
That's an interesting argument. This is something the Making Comics guys, I'm sure since you listen to the podcast, you've heard them talk about this. Basically, if I remember right, I hope I'm attributing this correctly. If I remember right, Keith kind of feels like leave it alone, and Scott kind of feels like if you have an opportunity, like go ahead and go back and make it better. And he fully intends to go and remaster some of his earlier stuff. I think when he gets done with the series, one of the series he's doing, when they're talking about it, and when I've talked about that with them, it seems like the debate is kind of between, should the work be representative of your ability at the time, like a moment in time?
Right.
In which case the argument would be leave it alone. Or is nothing ever finished, it's only abandoned, and like, look, if you think it should be better, you're the boss, you might as well make it better, But what I think what's never come up is this idea of how does the existing audience figure into that calculation? Like if they've fallen in love with the version that's out there, should that be a calculation on whether you go back and mess with it?
Yeah.
And I think that's the problem with the George Lucas example. Is like people like you and me, our age, we fell in love with what we saw in the theater,
Yeah, I mean, what's the difference between the whole editing process? You're changing things that whole time, and at some point you just say, okay, it's done. Now we're putting it out there.
Yeah.
Whereas if if you have the chance to go back and edit it, I don't know. It's just and a lot of it I just don't think the choices that he made were for the best. And I didn't
think it made anything better, really. No, I think it was kind of unnecessary.
There's some. I mean, there's some that I kind of like the Emperor thing because it makes it more continuity a little.
Yeah,
bit,
make them.
I feel bad because that original actor is like now,
right?
Not in it. So I mean, there's certain things. I think with Empire was probably the best one. The Wampa stuff wasn't too bad,
Too bad.
In some ways, I think it's better, but I still would rather just kind of leave it alone.
Yeah, and I have a nostalgic. I mean, you can get them. It's a little shady, legally questionable, but you can get the original.
Yeah, I want to get.
People have remastered them on Blu-ray, like the originals, and you can get a good 1080p version.
That's what I want to get. Yeah.
And I have both. I have the current official remastered special edition, whatever, and then I also have these kind of reconstructed original versions. I do there are some changes that are fine, usually in the category of, I think some of the digital mats are nicer, and like they help, like some, like for example, like Empire Strikes Back, Bespin, these big open windows, you kind of see Bespin behind it. That's
like
cool.
I said, I think Empire, they did the best job with their kind of special editions. I could watch that and not get angry.
Right.
Totally.
Yes.
No problem. Yeah.
It's more restrained, and it's more like little touch-ups.
Yeah.
It's just making it look a little nicer, where then you get into like, I think the worst example in my, first there's the Jabba in the original special edition.
Right.
It's really bad in A New Hope. But I think also in A New Hope, I always remember that scene where they roll into Mos Eisley, and this giant, brontosaurus-sized alien walks in front of the camera, and all you see is just kind of low-res, wrinkly, brontosaurus, elephant skin going by. It's like, what does this do for any? Why?
And then the Jawa falling out, and some of the little human things, I just, even as a kid, when I saw Return of the Jedi, I was like, I don't know about this. I don't know about the creature coming out and burping and
right.
And I was a kid, but I was just like, this isn't. I don't like this, So and of course, Ewoks and stuff like that. But
yes, yeah,
yeah,
to add that stuff in. No, I'm with you. Yeah, I would never have any shame when it comes to DvsM. I would never have any shame about correcting errors. Like if I found a typo in 75 today, the next reprint of it would have it.
Yeah.
Like I have no problem with that at all. But I think I've been talking about this recently. Sometimes when I look, it's getting to the point where with 75 especially, I look at it and it's like, that does not look like a finished drawing to me. You know, I feel like that could have been a lot better. And I really struggle with like, should I would never mess with it on a floppy format, but the question is going to come when I finally do a trade. Like that will be it's like, is this my opportunity to bring 75 in particular kind of up to par with the rest of the books? But then I don't know if that's something I'd be comfortable doing until I finish the whole thing, until I do all 6, because God forbid, like, it's like, well, I'll do these little tweaks of 75. And then like 5 or 6 years from now, I'm like, okay, I need to tweak 75 again. And also 97. And also I want to go back and screw around a little bit with, you know, I think maybe I should save all that urge to mess with it until I'm done. Like done with DvsM. And then I can think about, is this really that important to me to screw around with stuff that's out there? But,
yeah, and of course, a lot of this stuff is just stuff that's on our own head, because when I look at DvsM, I'm like, don't change a thing, you know.
Okay.
You know, so,
well, it's good feedback to hear. Like, I mean, it's good to know that, like, you know, how much of this is just me, like, nitpicking my own work, which is, you know, part of the process. But, okay, Jim Lujan. Creating isn't getting more difficult artistically, but I switched to Adobe Animate, and some of this has been relearning. It's like if you guys switch to watercolors only. See, and I've never really messed with Animate, so I don't know how. I'm assuming, though, that's pretty different from Flash, especially CS3 Flash or whatever you were using before, Jim. Signatures for, let's say here. Josh is voting for an old school giant double sized edition for Young and the Dead.
Yeah, when I do a trade, I'm sure I already have like an initial story. I want to add like a little backup story and different things like that. So, and I don't know, I'm still of kind of two minds, because the fact that it's taken me, I don't know, it's been like 10 years for a raid, like what should be a monthly comic. I mean, there's big gaps in between there, and like, so I don't know. I can't say 100% certainty that I won't go back and tweak. But then I'll go back and look at the first issue, and I'm like, that's pretty good. And I think I spent more time on the first issue because it was like, as you go on, you get a little more comfortable, you get a looser. I want to get this done. So I'll look back at the first issue, and there's certain things that I'm like, okay, I could have done better. But I know I took more time probably with the first issue. I was a little more particular about it. So because of that, I think there's certain things in there that look a little better, but.
Yeah, see, and it's funny, the comparison, because with 75, I felt like I wanted to do everything I could to guarantee that I would finish. So I was being very safe, I think, with like a lot of my drawing decisions, a lot of my, you know, I was just kind of mostly focused on what is going to increase the odds that this actually gets done. And so I was really like worried about like overworking myself. I was worried about biting off more than I could chew. I really tried to like, let's just focus on basics. And compare that to 79. I think 79, I really was trying to see like how hard can I push within that same page a week format that I was doing. So I think that's where I see the gap, where it's like, and I remember with 75, there was a lot more of feeling like a page a week was a roomy, luxurious timeline, you know, where a lot of times I was finishing a page 3 or 4 days into the week and taking the rest of the week off. and just like, this isn't so bad. I'm managing this. And we're compared 79, I was always running out the clock and very often like a day behind. Like I was completely filling the space with work. So mostly I'm perceiving that difference. There are still, to be fair to anyone who's watching, I will browse, like I'll flip through 75 today and still am very happy with it. I like that book a lot. And there's especially like art in it that I think is like, it's great, looks great. Like I wouldn't change a thing. There's just a few panels here and there where it's like, I don't know. But,
yeah, I think to me, and I don't know, do you know the difference because, and maybe it's because you were sharing the process most of the way on 79, is that it seemed like it came up faster than like it didn't seem like the wait was that long. I don't know, because it's for me for 79. It seemed like, because it's just like, he's almost done. Like just recently.
Oh, did it seem that way to you?
To me, it did. To me, I don't.
Well, I can tell you, it didn't feel that way to Squatch.
Like
Squatch, every time you ask Squatch how long has he been waiting for 79, like the years get longer. Like I think last time I was talking to him about it, and I said, you're going to wait a little bit longer for your package. And he's like, I've already waited 6 years for it. What's another few days? It's like
what was
6
the difference
years
between the time first one was 75, right?
75, yeah, 75. Okay, so I believe, if I remember right, 75 came out in 2018.
Okay, and
97 came out in 2020.
Okay.
And now 79 came out in 23. So 79 was slower.
Oh, okay.
But because I think that was, remember, 97 came out kind of right as we were in the midst of COVID.
Yeah.
And so I think like shutdown kind of derailed me a little bit. And I was slow getting back into it with 79. Once I started, I was at the same rate I've always been. But it was a little bit slower getting started with it. And finally, I moved. And that like completely made me non-productive for a few months, so it was like just completely turned everything over. So I had intended, if people go all the way back to my original 79 videos, I had really intended to get 79 out December 2022, like 5 months ago. But again, like life happened and little delays, and before you know it, you're 4 months behind. I do intend going forward for it to be what it originally was, an every other year kind of thing. So ideally, my aspiration, DvsM 4 will come out in 2025. Like next year we'll be drawing DvsM 4 and 25. Then 26 will be drawing DvsM 5. 27 will be the release of DvsM 5, and then drawing the last one in 28 and it coming out in 29, which sounds insane. When I talk about the last DvsM probably going to be in 2029, that sounds like the future. Like it sounds so far off. It's 6 years away. It's like not really like, I mean, it's a ways off, but it's 2029 sounds like a ridiculous year to say out loud, but not that far. But that's the plan right now. And I think it will be doable only because, and I hope I'm not going to jinx it, none of the remaining DvsMs will be as long as 79. 79 was the longest one yet. And I can't imagine how 4, 5, or 6 will be anywhere near that long. I suspect they'll be closer in length to 75, like in that kind of 40-ish page range, which will make it much easier for me and much easier to hit deadlines. But let's see here. Go back. Okay. Jerry, because of Siri. Jim loves Siri. Please don't mess with your original work. Consider it a timepiece recording. It is what it is and captured the time in your life. That is, I will tell you, that is usually where I'm at with it. Most of the time, I feel like I think you should just, if you have gripes about your old work, do new work. Like, that's generally my philosophy. Like, I don't see much point in going back and noodling with something you did years ago. Like, just, if you see like, oh, I wish I'd done that better, it's like, okay, we'll do it better from now on. But once in a while, I just get a little twinge of like, oh, it'd be so easy just to add this little thing to this panel and make it look that much better.
Yeah, I agree with Jim, but I can't 100% guarantee that I'll follow that advice.
See, yeah, it's hard.
Jim, I get that advice myself, but I still, yeah.
Right. Yeah, do as I say, not as I do. Jim, so I guess you have, Jim, this is a question for Jim. Have you ever had a temptation to go back to any of your earliest things? And have you, actually, let's not go that far. Have you ever sat and looked at your older work and imagined what it would look like if you had to do it today? Like that's maybe.
I think Jim's in a little different circumstance because he does little, even though there's kind of a universe that everything lives in, he does these little one-off things. So once it's done, it's easier. When you're dealing with something like, say, Young and the Dead or DvsM, it's part of a collective thing. So if you've got issue 1 that kind of connects with issue 5 or 6,
yeah,
it's like if I was just doing one shots of stories, I wouldn't go back and change it. But because it is part of a larger narrative, that's where I kind of run into, questions.
Maybe, consistency. Well, and without spoiling anything, there's a cameo in DvsM 79 where it was the first time I was drawing someone, for the, gosh, I'm really dancing around this. Okay, guys, for the next 2 minutes, spoilers. Ruben Garcia pops up in DvsM 1979, and it was an interesting challenge or experience to draw him as a similar age as he was in 75, but where I feel like my art game has leveled up. So it's this push-pull between I want him to be recognizably the same guy we saw in 75, but I also want to draw him a little bit better than I did in 75. But I can't draw him so much better that it doesn't look like how he looked in 70. Like, this was this kind of weird, like, I didn't even think about it. Like, when I wrote him into the script, when I put him in, I was like, oh yeah, it'll be great to kind of see him like appear. It was only when I went to draw that first panel where I was like, oh, this is weird. Like, this is very weird. So I don't know, is there anything like that in Young and the Dead? Is there anyone that we haven't seen since like the first issue that like we'll see again?
Well, it's not so much that we haven't seen, but even like the kids, like if you look at what they look like one thing I noticed is that I draw eyes very different, and maybe it's because now they're a little more wider, like not anime, but they're wider than they probably would be in real life, just because I'm trying. Sure. I'm the style I'm kind of getting into is more sort of, I don't know, like a young adult kind of look. And in the beginning, that wasn't as much the case. So you'll see that the way I draw eyes has kind of changed. It's like, it doesn't quite match up. Or characters, like with anything, the more you draw a particular character, you learn shorthands and things like that. And things become, whereas the same shorthands and things, they weren't always as evident in the beginning issues. So it's just the cast of characters. Like, I still think you can pick them out as far as who's who and stuff. Right. But yeah, so I don't know. There's things like that I'm like, I mean, I go back.
Well, I think you have good, strong character designs where there's so many cues there. You always know it's this guy.
I mean, I definitely have same face syndrome. I'm not even gonna lie, and that's partially a style thing because it's a very simple style. But imprint onto that same face symbol with different hairstyles or glasses or
Sure.
attire or whatever, and then it becomes, you know, because my characters are very much, they're young, so especially when you're doing younger characters, other than, you know, there's one character that's a little heavier than the other ones, but or height or whatever, but younger characters, there's not a whole lot. You can't put facial hair on them. You can't. I mean, one of them kind of, you know, has a different shaped nose. There's certain things you can do, but for the most part, it's kind of very straightforward and kind of.
It's their clothes and their hair and stuff that really, but no, but we're, you know, something I don't know why I think about it so much. I think maybe Josh was the one who even woke me up to like having to do this. Josh pointed out once that if you're working black and white, a lot of the choices you make you have to make your characters way more distinct than maybe someone who is working in color. I'm paraphrasing what Josh was observing, where like, if, for example, if we're doing in color, you can kind of have the red superhero and the blue superhero and like the guy with the cape. Like, it's very easy to kind of like just with color distinguish people. If you're working black and white, then you really get in the weeds of like, okay, they need a totally different outfit so you can recognize them. Okay, they need, like, you really, like, you can't lean on some of the easy shortcuts for character diversity that you can with color. Like, an example for me as an arcade rat, like Mortal Kombat. What's the difference between Scorpion and Sub-Zero? Well, Sub-Zero's blue and Scorpion's yellow. You know, like, and that's basically it. They're a palette swap. What's the difference between Ken and Ryu in Street Fighter? Oh, Ken is red and Ryu is in a white. Like, okay, like, you can't really do that in black and white. You got to come up with more ways. And I think you and I have to lean on that harder because we're not relying on color to make it very apparent who's who. Like, you have to come up with like, well, this guy's wearing this thing.
Yeah. This guy. I try to do that. Like, if you open the front page, there's a logo. There's a version of the logo that has all the silhouettes of all the characters, and I try to make them distinguishable enough that you can pick them out, you know? So.
Yeah, and I remember that being a big thing, especially when early on when I was having to try and figure out Ruben and George in 75, I knew like, well, they're both going to be wearing black suits. And they're both going to be in this black and white comic. Like, and so that's why it's like, well, one's going to be old and little. And the other guy's going to be kind of big and young, and he's going to have a mustache. Like, trying, like, what are all the other ways I can change them? Because, like, I recognize there's a very, if you like that's a potential where if you're a little lazy about it and you're just drawing everything, like, not to slander the Marvel way, but if you're drawing everything the Marvel way and you have two guys in black suits, like, you could very quickly start mixing these two up. So it's like, I need them to look very different in every other way. Let's see here. Making sure I didn't miss anything in the chat. Looks like I'm caught up. So are you going to be at Fan Fusion?
I don't think so. I'm definitely not exhibiting. I don't know. But having said, and like, no pressure, but like, if you guys are hanging out afterwards, and I know everyone's probably exhausted, so if you do hang out after, let me know. I mean, I'll drive up there or whatever, but
absolutely.
Yeah, because I'd like to still do the kind of hanging out with artist friends when they come in town or whatever, or do like drinking draws or whatever the case is. But I don't know, and I don't know that. I mean, I may just go. I may just go as, you know, as a buy a ticket and go. I don't know. I'm not sure, but I kind of said that unless somebody invites me, I'm kind of not doing the comics anymore, other than for Fan Fusion anyway.
I wouldn't be there if I wasn't splitting a table 3 ways.
Yeah,
I can tell you that.
Yeah. Like last year, I was signing for like Surprise Comics, and they were kind of the same thing. Like, we don't know if they're not doing it this year. They
aren't?
No.
Interesting.
So yeah, I think a
a
lot of people are
if there was a hangout night, it would probably be I'll find out. Like I'll because I'm supposed to. I wanted to reach out to those guys to like nail down plans anyway. But
And having said that, I haven't even looked at my schedule, so I don't
yeah,
know sure if I can.
Probably it would be maybe Friday night, because my understanding is Scott Loss is going to be there for the whole convention.
Right.
Keith is only going to be there Friday and I think Saturday. And he's like not even staying Saturday night. So probably Friday night would be when everybody like on this side, you know, the Making Comics guys and me will like be around. But it could be maybe Thursday night too. I'll feel out and we'll see what your schedule is. But
yeah, and I don't know who else. Like I don't know. Like do you know Jeremy Burley?
Yes. Well, I mean, I've been on his show, but I'm not as well as you know.
He used to do Fan Fusion. I don't know if he does anymore. I haven't talked to him in a little while, but I'd be interested to see if he was coming in town.
I'd be curious about that too. Yeah. That would be cool because I've never met him in person.
Yeah.
That would be neat.
Yeah, we hung out. Jim and Josh and I hung out with him. I don't think Corey was there that night, but yeah, we hung out with him in California too. So that was the last time I really hung out with him because you know, with COVID and everything. So I don't know if he's back to doing conventions or not, but
yeah, I would be curious. That would be cool. I do know, like, if you listen to the Making Comics podcast, Keith and Scott Lost. I keep specifying Scott Lost for just confusion. Yeah. They've never turned down a beer. So, I suspect there will be a couple like evenings of like, let's go get some food and get a beer someplace. So I'll broadcast that for all you guys in the chat and everything in case there's some opportunity to get together. Let's see here. Frank is in the chat. Like the gym guy. You're not shadow banned, Frank. What do you mean again?
Shadow banned.
Was he shadow banned somewhere?
I don't know. I haven't. It seems like, and maybe I just haven't been on enough like streams or whatever. I haven't. It seems like I haven't seen as much of Frank, so I don't know.
Yeah, Frank is
being shadow banned, or if he's just not being as active.
I suspect he's not being as active. I remember, and this isn't a complaint, Frank. It's just an observation, but I remember. Frank had this sort of almost unnatural ability just to appear, like sense there was a live stream and be there. And it seems like he's maybe put some more balance in his life. I don't know what's happened, but like he's just not. Oh, you know, Corey is offering to ban Frank if he's looking for that. Hi, Corey. Good to see you. Frank is saying, yes, I've not been as active. So.
Well, we miss you, Frank, but if you know, it was a little crazy. You were pretty much everywhere.
It was like kind of remarkable.
It's like I don't know if anyone's made this joke before, but you remember Mr. Science Theater with TV's Frank? I always felt like Frank was like YouTube's Frank because he was just always there. You know?
Yeah. Right. There. He says he feels loved again. Good. Josh says heading out. All will watch the rest on replay. Thanks for the stream, latest DvsM. Thank you, Josh. Thanks for coming by. I appreciate your kind words about the comic. So let's see here. So yeah, well, okay. So may or may not see you at Fan Fusion. I understand. And like I said, if not for the fact that I was sharing a table.
Yeah, my friend asked if I was going just to hang out. So I don't know. Maybe I'll see. He's not really a comic guy, but he went last time, and I think he must have had a good time because he was asking to come back. But he just likes to check out, like, you know, people making stuff and.
Sure. Yeah, I mean I don't know. I think on my personal to-do list in the gearing up for Comic-Con, there's the practical things that I've got a bag of board comics. I've got to figure out what I'm bringing. I got to figure out some signage, all the practical stuff. But then on the personal stuff, I think I need to work on to sound a little parental, I need an attitude adjustment. I think I have to admit I'm not super looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to seeing Keith and Scott. I'm looking forward to like, you know, like there's always some like regulars that will find me at Comic-Con and I'll see them and that's cool. But I think overall I'm not super excited for all the well-trodden reasons we've talked about over the years. Like I'm just burning out on Fan Fusion. But I don't want it to be a self-fulfilling prophecy. I want to get my head right before I go, so I at least have a good attitude about it, even if it is a colossal, expensive waste of time.
Yeah, I mean, I had some hope after COVID that when it was coming back. Like I thought maybe there'd be a little bit of, maybe they'd be a little more humble. Like, and
yes,
maybe okay, well, you know, let's maybe focus a little more on creator stuff and things like that. And I kind of felt that maybe a little bit like
first time
people are coming back. Yeah, but I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
I think that's what's it's, and maybe I'm reading too much into it, and maybe it'll be fine. Maybe it'll be a great show.
Yeah. But
there is something about their promotion that gives me that whiff of like, oh, this is just everything I didn't like about it, you know? And we'll see. I mean, I have to trust that ultimately it's not so much PFF that determines whether PFF sucks or not. It's the attendees that determine whether it's a good show or not.
Right. Yeah.
And I think that's what we'll wait to see. Like maybe COVID, the big reset of like public gatherings, maybe now the people who show up will be more into comics, you know, but we'll see. Last year was great. Like I did enjoy, I only did one day last year, but it was great. And the Arizona Comic Book Arts Fest was great, really great. But I think as I mentioned on a previous stream, I think that experience was so great, it sort of had a negative effect on my opinion of PFF. It made me more impatient with PFF stuff. Because I saw all the things that Ryan did right at Comic Book Arts Fest. And I see like PFF not doing any of those things. And it makes me a little grumpy. But we'll see. Like I said, I need to work on I have basically 2 weeks to get my attitude right, to go in at least with a good attitude, to be open to it being great. So we'll see. Also, there was some conversation in the Artcasters chat about how Jim was going to report me to the authorities for.
Yeah. When I heard you mention that, obviously I'm not on the mailing list or whatever for people that are exhibiting, so I didn't see that, and that pissed me off too.
Right?
Like that's just crazy because I mean you're stuck at a table. You're
stuck. It's so unfair. It's like, and it's just so, I think like the word I used when I was talking about it, just unfriendly to the people who are paying you to be there. And that's the other thing. Like I've been, knock on wood, every con I've been to, I've usually at least broken even and often made money. Okay. So, this is the important thing. I am like a weird exception. You know, there are people who are going to the con who are losing money, you know, and that's, you can make a case for it that it's okay. Like it's advertising, it's promotion, it's getting out there. Like you shouldn't, I don't think you can judge a con success or failure based on whether you made money. That's it. It's a wrong way to think about it. That said, though, there are people there who are losing money on this endeavor, and now you're gouging them for bad ham sandwiches and bottles of water. Like it's,
and where does this mandate come down? So they get this new vendor that's controlling. Does that company say, we want you to definitely enforce this? You know, make sure none of these exhibitors.
I think it's probably security at the convention. So presumably, like working for Phoenix Convention Center.
Yeah.
But I think what I find to be weak tea, so to speak, is that FanFusion's response to this, because people have been writing back saying like, this is lame.
Yeah.
And their kind of canned response to it is, out of our hands, this is all the venue. It's like, you pick the venue. Stop buck passing.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like there are other places you could be doing this. And to me, it just seems like wimpy to be saying like, oh, look, venue rules, venue rules. Aren't you hiring the venue? Aren't you probably giving them thousands of dollars? Can't you stipulate like, no, we're not going to let you do this to our guests, or at the very least the exhibitors? Like, of course you could. Like, it's nonsense to say like, oh, out of our hands, out of our hands. You know, it's like, can you imagine if you were invited to a wedding and it's like, by the way, everyone needs to rent a tux. All the men need to be wearing a tux. Sorry, venue rules. It's like, this is your show, jackass. Like, how can you pass the buck? Like, is it the Phoenix Convention Center con or is it the Phoenix FanFusion con? I'm sorry. That really, like, it was annoying enough to be saying, like, this is the rule about food and drink. It somehow made it extra annoying that they were like, it's out of our hands. Like, sorry, guys.
All right. Yeah.
It's your, come on. At least just own it.
Well, you wonder, maybe it won't get enforced that, because there's been things in the past where they say, oh, this is the way it is, and like, oh, you can't go above 8 feet, and then you've got 12
people having stuff, yeah, exactly.
Towers, and you know, they'll say certain things and then they won't really enforce them. So, or we're going to come around and check all this stuff, and so maybe it won't. But I mean, it's just like, at least for the exhibitors who don't have any choice, but for the most part stay at
they're captive, they're hostage. Yeah, no, that was my feeling too. It's like, at least, and I understand, like, you know, I don't know, don't let people walk in with a party sub or something. Like, whatever, but some reasonable allowances I think are fair. You know, that would be, especially for exhibitors, would be fun. And for attendees, I still feel like anybody should be able to walk in with a bottle of water. I don't care.
Yeah, that's the thing. Didn't it extend to water? I mean, that is ridiculous.
Yeah. They're saying like,
always bring like a gallon jug of water.
Yeah,
you know, because I don't, even if I'm not even opposed to drinking out of the water fountain, but I can always get out of my thing when I'm the only one there and go drink out of the water fountain.
Right. You know? Exactly. And especially if you're a little bit of a, I don't know, slightly more on the spectrum of health nuttiness, like slightly more on that side than the.
Well, yeah, like, and like with me, with my diet, they're not going to have. Yeah, it's so difficult, you know.
Exactly, I mean, it's like I'm not going to be able to get anything there. I'm going to feel good about eating, and I don't want to drink your dank, you know, like water fountain water. Like, I want to bring like bottled water, and I want to actually bring like some healthy snacks. You know, like, I don't
go in there with Burger King. You don't have an argument. If you go in there with Burger King, you don't have an argument. But
exactly. Yeah,
I'm going in there like in the past with like granola bars or whatever, something or a sandwich that, you know, is a little more, you know, health conscious.
Well, and I would love to see like, and you know, and because I've never worked security, but I know that level of job because I've worked that level of job. The people who are checking you, it's all they can do just to show up to work. You know, it's. Like, I know if I brought like a fake doctor's note saying like, sorry, I'm on a special diet, this is the food I have to eat today, they'd wave me through, because they don't even like, they're like, I don't want to have this conversation. Sure, fine, okay, you know, like, and it's like, I'm kind of considering like, this is what I'm saying, like, it's like I want to almost just push this to see like, what are you gonna do? What are you really gonna do?
I'm anxious to hear what happens.
I
would be honestly, I would be a little surprised if you got stopped and they said, no, you cannot bring this in. But I want to be surprised if happens. I want to hear that story.
If I'm flashing an exhibitor badge, I'd be a little surprised if they're even going to search. Like, they might poke very loosely, like make sure I don't have a gun, and then be like, okay, you're in.
Well, and here's the thing: when you go in, when you're first, and I don't know how you may, because you're just kind of at a you know, like when I went, I had a big like booth, or I had a couple of tables, and I go in and I had to do my setup. So they're not going to go through your big cases of like things you use to set up your thing. So that's when I bring in the the gallon bottle of water, and then but then the days after, you know, I'll bring in a little lunch box or something in my backpack or whatever, and that never was a problem before, but we'll see. Yeah.
Well, unfortunately, DvsM isn't big enough that I have to worry about PFF actually even watching my channel or knowing who I am. So I'm comfortable saying this. It seems like the big thing.
We do have narcs out there in the Artcasters community, so
that's true. But it seems like the easy exploit is like bring in your snacks on the load-in the day before.
Yeah, that's
like
anything anything that's not totally perishable, you know.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. And for me, it would be perfect. Like I want some like bags of walnuts and some dried fruit or something to munch on. You know, like that's like, and I can bring that in Thursday night. You know, and maybe even what I won't do, because I don't want to poke the bear. I don't want to bring in like a 24 pack of bottled water to throw under the table. But like,
no, because that would defeat the whole purpose of them being unreasonable if you're also being unreasonable.
If you're taking advantage. But if it's sort of like, are you really going to confiscate my pistachios? Is that what we're doing? Like, I would love, that would be actually some great live stream content for Gary Hodges.
You just pull out your phone and
and
stream it right there.
Can you please explain to my camera, sir, what you're doing? Can you explain, sir? Yeah, that'll be great. Sure to be invited back someday. Corey, so isn't limiting water illegal in Arizona?
Their excuse is that there's water fountains.
There's water there. Yeah, that's what they're doing. So what they would presumably have you do, they're telling you can bring empty bottles. So what they would presumably have you do, if they're really going to be hard-nosed about it, if you show up with a bottle of Fiji or something, they'll say, pour that out. You can keep the bottle to fill up the drinking fountain, which there's no reason to even dissect how stupid that is and how it just illustrates how dumb the rule is. You know, like just that we're going through this stupid, wasteful step to accommodate this weird. They should just say water is fine. Anyone can bring water. If you want to start making weird rules about things, make it about like, food and I don't know, something else, like stuff that you're at, but water should be, no, fine. You have a bottle of Arrowhead, fine. I don't know. Again, this is what I'm talking about, though. Over the next week and a half, the impetus is on me to get my attitude in line. Because I'm sure you're hearing in my voice, like it just has me kind of irritated. And like in this baseline level of irritation, which I don't think is helpful to me. You know, it's not going to help me have a good time at the show. So I gotta work on my headspace in the meantime. I gotta find what I'm looking forward to. Looking forward to hanging out with Scott and Keith. Looking forward to seeing some fans. Looking forward to selling some books. I've never had a miserable bad show. I've had frustrating, annoying shows like you have, where it's like, ugh, I don't even know if this is worth it, really. But I've never had a terrible waste of time show, you know, where I sold 3 books the whole weekend and it was a big, you know, waste of time and all of that. Like, it'll be fine. It'll be good. And I got to concentrate on all that. So, and on the bright side, even if it is sort of a drag, it's only 3 days this year. Where past years,
they're doing the preview night.
They're not doing the preview night, yeah. And I'm all for it. 4 days is entirely too long.
Yeah.
Is Corey, is TSA running the convention? Well, that's the impression you get. It's weird. It's just you, and especially if you've worked at a big company. I think that's what makes it extra irritating. You can just picture you can imagine the conversation in a room somewhere about this. Like, what's going to be our policy? What are we searching for at the door? And I apologize. There's probably an otherwise totally normal, nice person with a nice family who loves their dog, whatever. But there's some dipshit out there saying like, why are we letting people bring in food when we're selling food? Why are we letting people bring in water when we're trying to sell them water? And everyone in the room on the table is like, yeah, no, that makes sense. That makes sense. And so they make this decision, and they're so in the bubble, they don't realize how kind of they're being a tool. And I'm sorry, like, I'm out of love, I'm telling you, if you're watching now, you're being a tool, but it's okay. You can be better. You can be better. Like, it's fine. We're all a tool once in a while. Maybe I'm being a tool right now, calling you out as being a tool, but it's fine. We can all do better. I'm going to try and do better too, and I'm going to try and get my attitude right for Phoenix Fan Fusion. Thank you very much. So, let's see here. Cord curve. TSA recently confiscated the handle of my razor, just the handle. I removed the blade. The handle is as dangerous as my toothbrush. Yeah. It's crazy. But hopefully it'll be a good show. I'm sure it'll be a good show. You know what? I'm going to start power positive thinking. It's going to be a great show. Let's see. Some person. W2F going on here. Just talking about conventions. Modern conventions. But boy, I am looking forward to more details about the Arizona Comic Book Arts Festival 2024. Gary's going to have an excellent time at a con. That's right. I am. This weekend, more bags and boards showed up. I was almost out. So this is one of the things I'll be doing in the run up to Fan Fusion is bagging and boarding comics. I also need to run by the Samurai Comics near me, which is fortunately very close, and pick up some short boxes. It's nowhere near the kind of problem that like Scott Lost has, where he's got a whole back wall full of boxes, but it's getting to the point where I'm running out of storage space for comics, especially now that I'm all stocked up and have all editions of DvsM. So I need more storage solutions. So I might even do that this weekend. I don't know. So I'm looking forward to a Samurai Comics trip.
Yeah, so I have a question, Gary. Now that the book's finished,
yes.
I mean, how much longer are you going to continue to do the live streams and everything? Or
I don't. That's a good question. I probably will continue to do the weekly live streams through Fan Fusion. Mm-hmm. I will probably do a post Fan Fusion live stream, so the weekend following. And then I'm going to try and be transitioning back to edited videos less often. I was actually just talking about this with Jim Lujan. People who have watched these from the beginning remember that the reason I'm doing the weekly live stream was I used to get a lot of feedback in the past, from you included, that my original process of I do a bunch of videos when I've got it, like a comic is nearing completion and it's out, and I talk about the comic for a few videos. And then when I'm getting ready to start working on the next one, I kind of go dark. Mm-hmm. And I'll pop up on other people's shows, but I won't put out a lot of my own content while I'm working. And then as it gets close to release, then I, would do more videos. And there is the analogy I always use. It's a little bit like Moses disappearing up Mount Sinai and kind of just being gone for a while. And then after a while reappears with the commandments and here you go, everybody, and then disappears again. I had a lot of people telling me it would be cool if you were more present, during that work phase rather than completely vanishing, kind of being around. And I thought I would try that this time. I would try and the reason there are live streams as opposed to edited videos is because, as you're finding out with your new, I'm not saying new direction, your new approach to YouTube, edited videos are a lot more time consuming.
Oh, yeah.
And I knew I'd be too busy drawing, too busy making a comic to be doing edited videos, so I'll just live stream because that's fairly easy. The only time spent is when I'm doing it, like a couple hours when I'm online, and then I'm done. So DvsM 79 has been on sale for, I think, about 2 weeks now. And it's selling great. I'm very happy with the sales. But it seemed, and now to be fair, I've not done a ton of promotion yet. I announced it on my channel, I announced it on my Instagram. I'm not burying people's social media with like on sale now posts. I haven't started the so-called press tour of like showing up on Artcasters, or like I'm going to be on Christopher Runsman's show next week. I haven't gone to the Making Comics guys and recorded a podcast talking about it. So like it's still kind of a soft launch. Nevertheless, sales are almost identical to 97.
Oh, really? See,
yeah, there's no dramatic difference. Like
that was my next question, because in addition to that, I was like, well, if you stay present, you're in people's, top of mind.
Not seeing it. Really? Now that could change. Maybe it'll be like but I'm not seeing any noticeable difference. And this is what I was talking about with Jim. It removes the sort of practical economic argument for doing weekly live streams. Like there's no perceivable difference. But it does not address the personal emotional argument for doing streams. Do I enjoy doing the streams, and would I just do them just because it's an opportunity to come on and talk to you or talk to Josh or talk to the making, like just, and talk to the audience and just sort of share my thoughts. I do actually enjoy that, but I don't think I need to do that weekly. I think I will probably transition more to what Jim's doing with, hey man, how's your movie going? Where every couple weeks, or at slowest maybe once a month, like do a live stream. I don't feel the need, and I don't feel the benefit of doing a weekly live stream anymore. I probably will for the time being until I'm fully out of launch mode. But then I'm probably going to back off. In terms of like near future though, most of my plans are edited videos. I want to do a Ask Me Anything video, which will probably be the next big one I do. It'll probably be after Fan Fusion. So by the way, if people want to get questions in, start thinking about your questions now, and we can do an Ask Me Anything. Whether it's about 79, whether it's about me, whether it's about DvsM in general, whatever. All questions are allowed. I want to do a character creation and analysis video on Dr. Veronica Wagner from DvsM 1979 to kind of go in that collection of the videos I did of Jenny and Ruben. That will be obviously a very edited, worked on video. And then I also want to do a little, like a kind of a retrospective of DvsM Part 1. So now that Part 1, the first half of the series is done, I kind of want to do a video that's talking about where we've been, a little bit of an overview, and little teases of what's to come in Part 2, issues 4, 5, and 6. And then another thing I thought of today, sort of on the note of Ask Me Anything, I still occasionally get questions of, where did DvsM come from? Like, tell me the history of DvsM. I don't mind answering that question every few years for somebody new, but I thought maybe there's some value. Maybe people would find it interesting if I did sort of a DvsM retrospective, just like the history of DvsM, like a quick, 15-minute recap of this is how it started. This is some of the earliest stuff. Here's images from the coloring book. Here's some of the prints I used to sell. Then in this, then I started working on the comic, and just kind of get people up to speed with where DvsM came from. So anyway, in short, all the things I'm thinking about of what I want to do with the channel coming, none of it's live streaming. I will probably continue to do a little bit of it, but it'll mostly be pivoting back to recorded videos. Work on DvsM 4 really, I mean, it's already kind of started, but when it really gets going, then I'll have the dilemma of, okay, well, how do I want to handle it this time? Do I want to do live streams? Do I want to do more of the old version of recorded videos every once in a while? I kind of, last night, I was thinking, like, maybe I want to do, like, a monthly check-in live stream. Like, you know, kind of just work quietly for about, like, sort of a compromise between my natural tendency and people who would like to see me more often. Kind of accumulate ideas of things I could talk about in a live stream over a whole month, pick out the thing that I think is best or the two things I think are best, and then do a live stream and kind of be focused on, like, here's how the past month went, here's where I'm at, here's what's going on. I don't know. But yes, the short answer to your question is live streams will be less often. Probably will still exist in some form, but not nearly, it will not be weekly like they are now. And I think you said this before, but with the new series, you said that will be the recorded ones will be every other week, and live ones will be like, so that's how it'll go. It'll be recorded live,
yeah.
like that.
Yeah, that's the plan. That's the plan.
Okay. That makes sense.
I'm going to excuse myself just for a second. I'll be back. So
okay, go for it. I don't see any smoke. Did you switch to gummies? I don't smoke. Some person. You're thinking of Squatch. I can tell you very honestly, as a complicated artist type, keeping my sober brain straight is plenty of work for me. I don't need to be introducing substances to muddy the waters. But, I did appreciate this reference, Corey. So. Let's see. I'm trying to think if there are any other updates. I am, this is far off, not far off, but a ways off. Still making moves toward, I think I've talked about this a little bit. I kind of am looking at doing, not kind of, I am looking at doing a print for every issue of DvsM. Ideally, a commissioned artist, a unique piece. But if I can't get like my first choices or first or second choices, probably I'll end up doing them myself. I saw a work in progress of a print for DvsM 1997, and it's looking great. I can't wait to share it. It looks very, very cool. I'm very excited. I also have a fun idea for a print for DvsM 1979, if my choice of an artist to do one can't do it or is too expensive or whatever. So my first choice, I'm going to be going to this particular artist and like, I have an idea, I think you'd be perfect for it. Are you taking gigs? How much are you, like, you know, that whole thing. If it turns out that person is just like not interested or is too expensive or whatever, then I have a plan B that I think will also be cool that I will do myself. And I also want to do a print for 75. I want to do a print for everyone. But that one I'm still a little fuzzy on. Like, I think I have an idea of what I think would be cool. I'm having trouble zeroing in on an artist that works in that style that I could commission to do something like that. So that's it. But this is to me is like later in the year. If and when I do a Kickstarter for the trade of part 1, the first 3 books together, that's when you would see those. If I, for some reason, don't do a trade for part 1, if I just decide to wait and do a trade for like all 6 together, then the prints would come up in some other form toward the end of the year. Like I would be just making them available for sale or whatever. I also, what I had hoped to do for Fan Fusion, like a year ago when I thought I would be well done with 79 by now and not just barely done, I have an idea for a kind of DvsM Part 1 print I want to do that I'm very excited to draw. And I think it will actually be in the visual style of the variant cover I did for Scott. If you look at his Young and the Dead, the custom cover I did for that, I think I was wanting to do a more cartoon, like compared to what I normally do, like a more cartoony version like I did for that cover, a print that for, there we go, yes. And that's, picture that style, but it's going to be like a print for all of DvsM Part 1. And I love the idea of it in my head. I'm looking forward to drawing it because it'll be a nice change of pace, especially working in a different style. I really enjoyed doing that cover for Scott because it was just different, felt different. It's nice to kind of, if you're drawing the same way all the time, I'm sure Josh especially is feeling that right now. It's kind of fun just to draw something totally different or in a different way. I want to do it. I'm going to do it, but it won't be available for Fan Fusion because I just don't have time. So that's another thing to look forward to this year, will be a print for DvsM Part 1, as well as prints for 75, 97, and 79, which I think will be really cool. The only thing I'm going to tell you about them right now is not only am I going to try to get artists to do them and pay them to do them, so it's just different. It's not just more of my work. Even if I do it, it will not be in the style of the books. And I think that's what will be fun about it. I think, honestly, I never really connected this, but probably the idea was from watching Scott do custom covers for Young and the Dead, where I was like, it would be fun to see some of these characters in a different style, you know, and just to see like elevated fan art of these characters. So, getting people who like, it's like, I think, you like looking at somebody's work, like I have an idea, can you do this? Because I think you'd be perfect for it, that kind of thing. But anyway, I'm excited for people to see them. I'm excited about the ideas. I think it'll be a fun, different thing. Let's see. Everyone loves deep cuts from the OT. Yeah, nothing livens up a party like a good Old Testament reference. Nothing like that. Let's see here. Very culturally relevant head. That's right. Really mark yourself as the cool guy at the party. It's like, this reminds me of Leviticus. Okay. I think that's all I've got for today. Scott, do you have anything you want to pitch or promote or point people at?
Yeah, there was something I was going to say, and then it's not coming to me. So
yeah,
it was relevant to whatever we were talking about. But yeah, I mean, I'm always happy to pitch my stuff.
Do it.
Like we talked about earlier, I kind of gave you the rundown. Anyone that wasn't familiar where the direction of the YouTube channels is going, if that sounds fun to you, or if you just like what I've been doing, or if you're not familiar with what I've been doing, is just a lot of advice and things for making comics and stuff. All that content is still on my YouTube channel and will remain there. But there's some cool stuff coming. So if you're not already subscribed to the YouTube channel, just check me out. Circworks on YouTube. And then I also have, we talked a little bit also about my comics, which all the covers and stuff are available, including Gary's cover.
Oh, cool.
So if you're
nice.
If you're on this channel, you're a fan of Gary, this comic is available on my website at circworks.com. And I owe you a cover too, Gary. So when you do get around to doing a trade or whatever,
yes,
you want, yeah. So
yes, absolutely, yeah. So I've never forgotten. Like, oh, I have a favor from Scott. When am I going to cash in that chip?
Yeah,
so no, I've never forgotten that, and I'm just waiting for the perfect thing. I really am trying to match, like, because I'm very lucky in that I know a lot of talented people, and yourself included, obviously, and it's like I have this kind of glut of riches when it's like I have visions for prints, and it's like, who of all these people I know, like who's like a good match, and trying to like pair everybody off. But yes, no, I will be collecting on that. Absolutely, you can count on that. So
I remember one I wanted to ask, and this is, and I'm kind of embarrassed to ask because if it's so obvious and why I'm not noticing it.
Oh sure.
And maybe I should have saved this for the Artcasters, but I don't understand what that is. First,
I was wondering how abstract it is. It's okay.
I thought maybe it was a slide because they were dealing. I didn't know if that little icon was something that, like, when you're looking into a microscope, or
okay. Well,
or if it was the bars from there's some scenes where there's bars.
It's the cage that you see in the book, and then that's the occupant of the cage, his eye point peeking out.
Okay, there, got it.
Yes. Yes, and that's funny because I knew this is the most abstract.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. All right. Okay.
And I did intend, this was the fine. It's funny you asked that, and I'm glad you did. I knew when I was doing it, if people had not read the book yet, they probably won't even understand what they're looking at, which I'm totally fine with. Like, I was like, that's fine. Yeah. And I think after they read it, they'll be like, oh, that's that, but I knew also some people, they still will be like, is this what this is? Like, it's a little more abstract than any of the covers, and that's fine. So yeah. Okay. Cool. No, but that's what
that makes total sense. Yeah. Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. The comic, without getting too much, it's filled with a bunch of those things where there's you open, there's more questions. I mean, you're going to read this and you're hoping you get a lot of questions answered, and I think there's more questions that you'll start asking.
It does do an element. There's an element of it. I think, yes, it answered. This is what this is avoiding spoilers, but it's safe to say. With the third book, I thought it was appropriate to start to answer questions that people would be asking after 97.
Yeah.
And being DvsM, and being that we're only in the third book of the 6 books, it answers them, but in ways that actually just leaves you with more questions. Right. It's like, okay, well, now I know this, but now that just presents like 5 more questions, and like that's, everything. This is what I will tell people who want to stick with DvsM through the whole series. It's not going to be lost where I'm going to just pepper you with like weird mysteries the whole time and then just tie it up in a bow and you'll never, like, I am going to ultimately try and start closing all these threads. But it's like, obviously we're halfway through. So the goal is to like, I'll answer this, but then you'll realize like, that's not really the question. Like there's another question behind that question. And there's another question behind that question. But I am really looking forward to talking with you guys on Thursday on Artcasters. And I am open if you want, like, I don't know what you guys want to talk about. We haven't even talked topic yet. But I am very open to doing like a spoiler portion if you really want to feel unfettered.
Well, I think there's, like you said, there's more questions that are raised, and I'll probably ask questions, and then you can say, I'm not going to answer that, or I will. Or
sure. Yeah. Yeah, but also, but I'm totally cool with like, as long as we're labeling it for people, like there will be discussions of the book in here, like, and some people don't care about spoilers. Some people are totally fine, and other people like Squatch or Jim or whatever are kind of like, no, I don't want to know anything yet. I don't want to know anything.
Yeah, we'll have to come up with I mean, obviously we're having you on to talk about the book, but we'll have to come up with a kind of a title or something, or something like that.
Yeah, well, and maybe I'm open to, now that all 3 of you have read it, I'm open to, like, maybe there's something in there that you all think is worth, like, a top that I'm immune to because I've been living too close to it for too long, and I can't even think of it that way anymore. Maybe you'll see something in there that it's like, this is a topic.
Yeah, I can come up with something, sure.
Cool. Okay, well, it's been 2.5 hours. I appreciate you coming by.
Yeah.
Good luck chipping away today. Not to twist the knife, but I'm so delighted to not be drawing this weekend. Oh, Christopher Runsman. Look at these fellas. Oh, look at sweet googly moogly. By the way, as I mentioned before, I'll be on Christopher's channel for his live stream. Pacific time is it's usually 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. or 11 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. Depending on how long he goes. I will be there. That's another one. I don't think we've come up with a topic yet. I'm thinking about it. I know he's thinking about it. It might just be us bullshitting. Who knows? But we'll probably come up with something. And we always do come up with something when he and I talk. Even if we went in with no aspiration, something comes out of it. So, and then I'll be on Artcasters Thursday evening. I'm really looking forward to it, especially since I punted on you guys twice, where it was like, hey, do you want to come on and talk about the book? It's like, I want to wait till you've gotten it. I want to wait till you've read it because I want us to be able to talk about it.
I was trying to help Corey out because I know Corey is he doesn't really like to have to look for guests and find guests. Yes. So I figured you're kind of a layup for him.
I know. And like and it was hard because I'm usually not one to say like, no, I'm good. Like I was like, no, I want to go on, but I was very, like I told Corey, it's like I don't want to go on like twice in a month because I don't believe in my ability to like provide 2 appearances worth of content in a month. Like I didn't want your audience to be like, oh, this guy again. So one time, like so. But now I'm looking forward to it. I'm really looking forward to visiting with you guys.
Well, there was a long time ago. There was a time where we didn't even have guests on the Artcasters. So
I know. And now it's the rarity. It's kind of unusual when it's like this.
Yeah. I think I'll ask the guy. I think I might be a guest at one point when I'm getting ready to relaunch my thing, and we can do a deep dive into my, where I'm going with the YouTube channel and all that kind of stuff.
I think that's a great idea.
Interview me. Yeah.
And if they need someone, if they need 3 people interviewing the guest, I volunteer to step in. I'm sure Jim would volunteer to step in, like whoever. But no, I am genuinely. I think we've said this privately, or maybe I just have told Jim, and I should have told you. While I fully understand your sort of hiatus from YouTube and the pivoting, and completely in supportive of it, I know I've at least told Jim it's like I kind of miss the weekly video from Scott. Like it's like it's that was such a part of my routine that I didn't notice until it was not there, and then so I'm looking forward to it coming back.
Yeah, I know. It's like 8 years, So, but then and I actually found another channel that does something kind of sort of similar to what I was doing. So if I can kind of recommend that to you if you're looking for something. I don't know if he posts every single week or not, but there's so many other people doing that, and that's kind of why I'm pivoting. To my knowledge, there's no one doing exactly what I'm going to be doing, and but I still think there's an audience for it, which is kind of that sweet spot.
Well, and not to throw any shade on those other people who are doing similar things, but I mean, and not to embarrass you, but at least people who like me and Jim and Josh, and like we're tuning in for you. Like not, I know. Yeah. The content could be anything, It's sort of like, I just sort of miss seeing a video from Scott, And
I'm hoping most of the people that watch my channel, a lot of them, that's their thinking too, because it's not going to be the same thing. And there's going to be some people that are just like, oh, I don't like this new. I like what you did before, and that's fine, but. There's 1,000 other videos of me doing that. So, unless you've watched them all, then if you have, then I don't know what else to say. But chances are you probably haven't watched them all, so you can go back and there's plenty of that stuff. So,
I suspect. I mean, it's you're not going to bring everyone with you, and that's to be expected. Right. But you'll pick up new people. Given enough time to replace.
My goal is to pick up a lot of new people, so we'll see.
And I bet of the previous audience, I'm sure a lot of them are like myself and other people I know, where, especially with this gap, it's kind of created a want for like, some new content from you, just to see like what it is. So I think I don't know. I'm hopeful that especially the debut back will be good. Will be a good. Like there'll be some good view counts.
It's funny. My brother has a friend who he's just like, I says, I don't even like care about art or anything. I just want to help you out. So I put your channel on and let it play, you know.
Yeah.
Now I can go to him and I can say, I think you might actually dig what I'm doing
Right.
now. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. I think this is going to, and I'll be able to tell more people about it, you know, and that like, oh, that sounds kind of cool. So I think it'll have mass appeal, but still it's really going to, I think the people that like what I have been doing will still be engaged with it too. So we'll see.
Well, and next month, sometime next month.
You'll see it. I not too long from now. I'm going to let you guys watch in advance one of the videos because I want to get some feedback. My thing is I'm going to present it, and unless there's something glaring that's wrong that I definitely need to change. The goal is to get your feedback. I won't change anything, but moving forward, because it's you know, as I move forward, I got to kind of see what works and kind of steer it in the direction it's going. So I probably won't, because I always hate asking people or people who ask for advice and then you give it and you say, oh, and then you don't take any of the advice. So I just put that out there that I'm taking the advice, but I probably won't change the beginning videos because it's an evolution. And I'll take that in consideration moving forward.
Yeah, I understand that. That's funny you said that. I think I kind of addressed that. That's another thing I mentioned in my thank you page of the book is there are lots of people would ask for like feedback on the script or on a panel or whatever. Like I wouldn't always take their suggestions, and it makes you feel funny because it's like, I want you to know I still very much appreciated the feedback. Yeah. I'm not going to make that change for reasons that have nothing to do with the value of the feedback. And I think people like you and I, we get that. I think like people who have done this, you understand like how that works. But I think sometimes if you're asking someone who's less experienced in the creative stuff, like, hey, would you read over my script for me? And for example, and they read it and they say like, well, I was thinking this and this and this. And you're kind of like, yeah, no, I understand. I'm not going to do that, but I understand.
Plus, you know, where there may be a suggestion that won't make sense for where you're going in the future.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. You know, or there could be any number of reasons, you know, like it's just, but it has nothing to do with like, I think the way I put it in the thank you page is like, even feedback you don't use is useful because at least for me, it makes you justify your decision. It makes you, it's like, this is why I'm not going to do that. Like, it makes you think through like, I have an explanation, you know, and that's also like useful. It's useful to know, like, why are you doing it that way? You know, and like, sometimes it's like, no, you're right. That probably should be different. But other times it's like, no, I can tell you why. And that's helpful too. So
yeah, because Jen's seen it. She's seen my videos and she's giving me criticism, or not criticism, but some critiques and things that I will change moving forward. But I'm not going to reshoot the video. So, but you know, stuff like that. And I'm curious to see if you guys might pick up some of the same things you did. So I will, you know, obviously be when I show you guys, just be honest with me, and you know, just knowing that, if I could change it, I might. But I'll definitely, because the newer videos, I'm trying to, you know, take that into consideration as I'm filming the newer videos. So they're not, you know, there's things still I want to change, but it's a you know, it's a progression thing.
This was Christopher, of course, he's wondering if the topic could be, what is it like for others to not be as handsome an artist as we are? That would be a great topic. No, I mentioned Christopher's interesting where he was the last person to lay eyes on DvsM before I sent it to the 79 before I sent it to the print. And there were a couple panels where he suggested breaking up the dialogue in different ways between panels. Mm-hmm. And there was at least one example where I looked at it and I was like, yeah, I do like his suggestion better, where if I like delay this line to the next panel or whatever. But the reason I didn't do it, not because it was a good suggestion and I think I agree with it. The problem was, as a shortcut, I never drew anything behind that dialogue bubble. So if I was going to move it over, now I'm going back and drawing like in the panel.
I want to get into it now, but we'll get into it a little bit. But that, and I hadn't seen this before. You maybe have, and that's where you got it. But the idea of people talking and it's just gibberish, like you don't need to hear their conversations, but those word balloons being cut off,
yes,
or going behind a door. that was brilliant. So I don't know if you've seen that somewhere else.
Oh, thank you. I don't remember.
And that's something I will steal sometime in the future. So.
Oh, please do. No, that makes me happy. And it's funny. This is the kind of stuff I was talking to Jim about this too. Like, it's fun to get other people. Like, I only know it as the creator, and it's hard to even imagine what people will key in on. You're the second person to mention how, like, because Christopher himself was like, I love how in the beginning, like, she's alone in silence and the conversation sort of moves into her and then like moves away from her. And it's like, I wasn't even conscious. Like, it's neat just that, like, I wouldn't have thought to even call that out. But now that I have two people,
if I hadn't already done my comic lettering masterclass, or if I was still doing tutorials on comics, I would have used that example.
Oh, wow.
Timeless over and over again, because it's just great. And I don't think I've seen that before. So
well, that makes me very happy. And it's a good example, full circle, when I was talking about how House of Leaves made me think more about being kind of playful with the medium. That's one of the examples of, like, I was like, how can I do this a little differently? And I liked the idea of, like, you know, like just playing with, like, where is the dialogue bubble and how big or small it is, depending on how close or far. And, like, is it, like, if you're half hearing something, is it half out of frame? Like, kind of having, like, visualizing like that. So that, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
I love that. That's brilliant.
Thank you. Thank you. So, yes, but then back to, so Christopher, that is something when Christopher's is on the way.
Yeah, we got to do our I kind of walked into that one, but our air supply duet or something.
Yes. Well, and you definitely do have to show up on Christopher's channel.
That's what I was talking about. Yeah. At some point, I thought that's what he was asking, but
yeah. Well, and to promote like the relaunch, I think it'd be great. Yeah, he's developed a pretty good little audience, you know, like, and it's fun. It's been fun to see it grow so much. Where I remember, it sounds like an old man, but it was actually only months ago. I remember when he had like 18 subscribers. Like, it was crazy, you know. And he's like, he's got a lot of people who are there every day. Yeah. So they're engaged. Okay. Romantic comic. Don't spoil his new videos. So yes. Yeah, no, I am still live, but I'm logging off right now, Jim. I just had lunch, sat back down to work on fungus. Saw you guys are still on. Yep, we're wrapping up. Let's see here. Hello, Jim. Coffee shop. There's a Renaissance fair filled with maidens and lads. That's okay. I bite my thumb at thee. That is what a weird random. I remember when we were reading Romeo and Juliet in high school, and it had to be explained that this was a horrendous insult. I bite my thumb at thee. Anyway, okay. All right, guys. It was great to see everybody. Scott, once again, thank you for coming on. Guys, supply. I ordered a lot of DvsM this time because I didn't want to be running out right away, and I didn't want to be juggling a reorder right when I was in the middle of Comic-Con. But it is a finite supply. And if you want to make sure you get a copy before Fan Fusion, I would encourage you. When I go to Etsy, it says, like, this number of people have DvsM 1979 in their cart. If everybody who had it in their cart checked out today, it would be sold out. So if you're holding off, if you're waffling or whatever, I think you should pull the trigger. That's the most selling I'm going to do today. All right. I will see you guys all next week. Look for me on Runciman's channel on Tuesday. Look for me on the Artcasters on Thursday night. Good luck with your projects. And thank you, everyone who has supported me by buying a book. I really, 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 really appreciate it. Really makes it feel less narcissistic and weird to be sitting in your room drawing for years, like to actually, like, okay, now this is for other people now. That's nice. Talk to you later.